to this full council meeting. I'll open with karakia, tue kurunga, tue kararo, tue koroto, tue kawaho, tue tātou te tangata ki te kaupapa o te hui nei, ki te kaupapa o te rangi nei, Māori ora ki a tātou katoa. Firstly, welcome. There are, I think, at least one person on Teams, as well as in the room. So just, if you're on Teams, just bearing in mind cameras on when you're speaking, etc. We have apologies from Councillors Mailing and Councillor Morgan. Someone like to move the apologies. Councillor McNamara, Councillor Kittermont, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So we now move on to the public forum. So we have a number of speakers registered in public forum. So we have Shane Graham on behalf of Ngāti Rārua, Donna McLeod in relation to the Motueka Library, Helen Bro in relation to a petition, and Terry Parkin. Three of those people are going to speak at the same, so together. So 5 minutes each will be 15 minutes, but they'll all come to the table and speak collectively. And Shane is running a little behind time, so we'll take him last. So if Donna, Helen and Terry, if you'd like to come up to the table. It's just me. Oh, is it just you? Okay, all right. So are you speaking on behalf of and including the other two? How is... No, they're separate. Okay. Right. So, righto. Welcome, Donna. So 5 minutes. I'll give you a little nod/hint at about 4.5. So over to you. Yeah. One of those. Yeah.
Ko pukioni ko tue wharepapa na maunga, ko mutue ko rewaka na awa, ko te awhina te marae, ko Ngāti Rārua ko te awa nā iwi. A tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. A nā mihi nui whanaunga, kia tau te rangi Māori. I shouldn't be here. If the communication was working with TDC well, I wouldn't be here today. My role was as and you try and do it, it's like herding cats, was to bring ATiwi together, to bring mana whenua together, to bring Māori entities together and the Māori community together to discuss a library. My brief right at the beginning was about a library and a community hub. We came in late to the table, and when we came to the table, we came with really good intentions to be part of this and to make this hub part of our community as Māori. When we look at all the things that TDC has done in public spaces, the library for me, and I speak about this on radio, on arts programs, is one of the most beautiful projects between a council, TDC, and the Māori community. My aim was to make a public space that my granddaughter could dance in freely and feel part of. This building is that space. It is an amazing space where we have mahjong and older women and garden gurus. But for me, the amount of Māori community who use that space. Libraries are not thought of as a Māori space, and yet we come from a teaching of wānanga and great houses of learning. But Pākehā Space has always owned that library sort of space. So to walk into that place and have our tonga, so Te Atiawa have given this beautiful tonga of petrified totara. So that acknowledges all the things that came before mankind. And then we walk into that thing, we have this beautiful korowai wrapping around people. It's a sanctuary. It was put there as safety, particularly for women and children coming into that space. The whole building is held up by po, which talk about our journey as mana whenua, as iwi, coming down to the South Island. There are no carvings in that building. That was a decision that we made as mana whenua, but also as iwi Māori. But the artwork is magnificent. We have one of the largest permanent collection of traditional poi hanging there. And when you come in, we have Natalie Keddy's work, which is seen in Times Square in New York. So that library is some of the best artwork that we could put into that building. And it all has stories and all has connection. But most of all, it was about the intent, the karakia of having this building as a safe community space. My disappointment with the council is this. Next week, we are going through our third reading with the Nelson tents. We're looking at $420 million coming back to our community, to this area, to the Nelson region. Whakarewa are moving their offices to the marae. The marae has a $20 million papakaiinga project there, which many of you have been to. Whakarewa, last time I looked at their books, had $100 million in the bank, and that was without talking about their land interest. If you look at all the iwi developments, we are doing housing, we are investing in this land. So, when we put our trust and our relationship in a $5 million building for our community, it may not seem much, but it was one of those amazing community relationships with integrity, with communication, the people that you put in, the staff members that you put in represented you beautifully. And that is what we are saying, what happened to that relationship. While people may say, look, we're only putting an office in there, what's the big fuss? The fuss is that you asked us to come to the table. So even that change is huge. It changes the wairua, it changes the karakia, it changes the placement of the art. And while I've heard, look, we'll bring you in when we discuss the art, actually we wanted to be in that communication and at that table at the beginning. So we need to stop this process, re-establish the trust, which I talked about at the swimming pool as well. Motueka's taken a hit. Be aware of that. So, thank you, Tim. Thank you. So, nō reira, but I would ask you to read my thesis that I have sent out. It's been sent out to you all. And if you have any questions, the invitation, come to Motueka, do the library tour with me, and let us gather and sit at the table. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Donna. So I'm just checking. So Helen Bro. So welcome, Terry as well. And so if you've got 5 minutes each or 10 minutes collectively and how you choose to use that, you'll get the little dinger just before 10 minutes come up.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. We're here today to present a petition signed by the people of Motueka and surrounding areas regarding the decision of the Tasman District Council to move their service centre into the library following the sale of 7 and 8 Hickmott Street. This petition has 562 signatures gathered in 3 days, along with another petition already presented that adds up to 774 signatures. The announcement of this decision has come as a shock to the community, and people are angry at the suddenness, the lack of communication, consultation, or just plain lack of respect for residents. Why the shock felt? Since 2021 until June 26, the council minutes have consistently shown the council discussing moving into the old library. Workshops have been held, including with the Motueka Community Board, who normally take the voice of the community to the council. Many people signing the petition expected the service centre to move to the old library. That is what the council has prepared the community to expect. But now, after a confidential meeting, a new decision is announced. The service centre will move to the new library. Is this an appropriate choice? The new library belongs to the heart of this community. It's a place of learning, a place of connection, quietness, safety. It has mana. Many group activities are provided for children, adults, older adults. It's not an overflow office for council. It's not spare real estate, and we will not stand by while that is compromised. The long-term plan for 2027 to 2037, as stated in Newsline issue 624 on the 7th of August, states, "It is about local insight and lived experience, local priorities and community expectation to inform our planning. Tasman has a beautiful and healthy environment that is safeguarded for the future generations of people, a place where people can thrive." We don't need to consult on that. We already have that. It's called Motueka Library. How can combining a call centre with our sacred and vibrant library align with those council's own comments? How can combining this is not simply about where six council staff will go. Where will the rest of council staff go? The planners, the builders, the building inspectors. We say keep them together as planned in the old library. We are concerned about the impact of bringing council services into this environment. 17 reported incidents involving verbal or abusive incidents towards council staff in Tasman have been reported. Council staff need to be safe. Library staff need to be safe. The community needs to be safe. I believe the current idea is to place the service centre to the right of the librarian desk over by the window. So they walk in the door and go past the librarian desk and over there. That's my understanding. Today, or that was yesterday, maybe the day before, at 2:30 p.m, there were 6 people standing by the desk. That's quite crowded by that desk. Are people who wish to go to the service centre going to have to push past those people? Today, the same day, I counted 14 people in the open area where the computers are. As the population increases, we will need more space, not less. That was crowded. There was not much room for more people there. Why would you deliberately pack a customer-facing service into a space that is currently valued precisely because it provides calmness, safety, and community? What options are there? Renting or leasing? The eyesight, space behind Paper Plus, sell the old library, sell the old kindergarten, make something beautiful over there. Please don't tell us this is a cost-cutting decision. We understand that money is tight. How many thousands have already been spent over the years over investigating, planning, talking about this move? Is that money just wasted? The old library has been vacant for at least 4 years, deteriorating in front of our eyes. Is that a wise financial decision? On the 25th of the 5th, 24, council minutes, number 11.3 state, "The enrichment and lifestyle and mental, emotional health that these groups add to our region are strongly felt to outweigh the monetary cost to council." Many people are struggling at the moment. Costs are rising. There are wars. Healthcare is struggling. Fuel costs are rising. The library offers a place of calm, peace and welcoming, a place to get away from the anxiety and fear of what is in the news constantly. They don't need to be confronted with the world, financial problems in the library. These two worlds need to be kept apart. And the people signing this petition that I'd like to hand over are saying shame on the council, and that has been repeated so many times. People are so upset. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll now come to Terry.
G'day.
Sorry. I forgot.
I'm delivering a petition also while I'm here. Thank you. There's been quite a lot of interest and I've got a few words to say. Hello everybody. It is our view that the Motueka Library is a community asset that was planned, funded and built for the present and future, and that it should be cared for as such. In December 2020, our library attracted $250,000 in Lottery Grants Board funding for a photovoltaic system to power the site. Earlier in 2020, the Rata Foundation also made a grant of $250,000 to support the Motueka Library project. In June 2018, TDC commissioned architects Jerram, Tocker and Barron to conduct a feasibility study on the Motueka Library redevelopment. It seems to have been a very thorough and comprehensive report. It must have been quite an expensive exercise. I quote from paragraph 1.2. This study will also consider the potential expansion into a library service centre hub, incorporating the Tasman District Council Motueka Service Centre. This is the first point of contact for council services, providing counter services as well as office accommodation for associated staff. It is estimated that a floor area of 400 square metres would need to be added to the new or expanded library building to provide for the centre. The council actually made a decision at that time not to do that. Having now read this report, one thing becomes very clear. The report simply does not envisage combining the public library with the TD service centre on the existing library building footprint. Alternatives. Behind the business of Paper Plus, there is commercial office space property that is being advertised as for lease. The business Paper Plus has a service desk providing for matters dealing with the vehicle registration there. And the most obvious solution is to conduct a resurrection of the old library building. After all, this build is an architectural delight in its own right and an interesting part of the history of our town. It is certainly worth being preserved, treasured and honoured. Now I've got some questions. Question one, the cost of the 2018 Motueka Library redevelopment feasibility study report. Could we have that? The sources of income that were used for this project. The long-term conclusions of this report. The conclusions of this report regarding the spatial requirements for the library. The conclusions of this report regarding the spatial requirements for the council. Thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Helen, for coming in and speaking to your submission.
Is that we're done?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I didn't. I take it Shane Graham has not managed. Yes, well, on his way doesn't really work. How am I going to do this? Right. Given the absence of the who's held up in traffic / running late. What we'll now do is we'll proceed with the first item on the council agenda, which is the report from the Motueka Community Board, and the chair of the Motueka Community Board, Claire Hutt, is going to speak to this report. So we'll take that now. We'll complete that report. Any questions that councillors may have of the community board in relation to that report, and if by that point Mr. Graham has turned up, we will then have his public forum and then return to the topic of the report after that. So welcome Claire, welcome other community board members, and I will come over to you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I'll take the report as read, but there is just a few items I'd like to highlight. I will be brief, I promise. Firstly, this is not about winning an argument. It's about making the right decision for our community, taking into account the future and not just what feels like a short-term gain. If we think for the future and not just short-term, we can secure the service centre to a modern premises in Motueka, along with preserving the new library building as a library, including future growth possibilities. Decisions have been made in the past, before our time, and before most of the councillors elected around the table today. Short-term cost benefit, but long-term negatives for the community. The same community that votes us all in. And yet that same community is the one that suffers from these decisions without even consulting them. The old library at 12 Parr Street is owned by council, with the land being 50-50 share between council and Wakatu. Sitting empty for 4.5 years, is that good asset management? There was confidential information. We need to understand the journey the councillors went through to make this decision, and with what rationale, because we have been left in the dark. No consultation, terrible communication. Where was the briefing with the Motueka Community Board? I'm happy now to take any questions.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for your written report and the work that's gone in behind it. So it is now open for questions from any councillors in relation to that report. Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you, Claire. Could you detail to us what sort of communications you have received from council on this matter?
Pretty much nothing. There was a comment made at the end of one meeting months ago that said, what do we think about the service centre going into the library? And all but one of us said no. And apart from that, nothing.
Thank you.
Right. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks for the report. I mean, it's quite tricky looking at this after sitting around the table, and this conversation started well before I came onto council. And I'm just, and I know part of my reasoning for why I voted for this option, because I know how important this library is to your community. I've spent a lot of time over in Motueka, and I certainly agree with the statements made by so many people in public forum today about what it means to your community. So I'd like to acknowledge that and appreciate everybody coming in. But part of my reason why I initially voted for this is my concern for the future, because I also know how important it is to the Motueka community that we have council representation in your community. And I'm also very conscious of the fact how difficult it is with continued rate rises for people in your community, because when I'm there, they tell me that too. And so part of my reason was at least you maintain that service in Motueka, because I hear the conversations that are going on around this table, and my concern for me is that it might be hard to be able to continue that service. So do you have any idea, and I know it's a big ask, which would the community prefer the most? If it came to the point when I hear no, and it is not a. Please don't laugh, because this is my genuine question, because I know how much you care about both of these services, and I also hear the conversations from the people sitting around this table about what they want to get rid of. So I hear this whole story, and I genuinely want to know, because the reason I voted for it is because I know you want that service. If you had to choose as a community, because that's what I feel like it's almost could be into the future, which would the community prefer? Because I get why you don't want it in the library. I so understand it. But which would you prefer?
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Well, once again, we haven't been brought along the journey on that decision either. We have heard comments like, well, if it doesn't go in the new library, you may not have a service centre at all. But we haven't had any briefing on that. And I can't speak for the community at this stage, because we haven't had a formal meeting about that, whether that is the case. So what the community board is asking is to at the very least have the respect to have a briefing with us, so that we can understand where we got and how we got to this position on behalf of the community.
Councillor Gully, and then Deputy Mayor Murray.
When we voted on this some time ago, I don't recall conversation around community consultation, but what I'm hearing this morning, and I voted for it, is that I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. I was wrong, and I think we should revisit it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair of the Community Board. Claire. Is there any, so I get the not being brought along with the journey, is there any opportunity you see of these two services working, or is that ruled out in terms of the conversations the board's already had?
Being just from the outside looking in, because we haven't had any of the information as to how you made that decision. So looking from the outside in, we haven't got the information to say that it's going to work. So at this stage, we don't think it's going to work. That's our feeling. Okay. It is our community hub. And as Donna McLeod said, it's a very special place to the community who, as I mentioned, they vote us in. Their voice is very important. So at this stage, absolutely, the community board is united in saying that we don't feel the two in the same building is a good fit.
So just got a question. You may not know the answer to this survey, people, but I've certainly read every name on there, and that is a true reflection of a cross-section of our community, without a doubt. On Sunday, I had 4 people call in. Somebody grabbed me in the supermarket, and their concern and the reason they signed that survey was because they believed the big event room, the big meeting room was going, and they were losing their activity space. So in terms of your conversations with people, and I know it's been hard because you haven't been on the journey, what has been the belief that the change that we're making? Has it been the big meeting room? Has it been the small meeting room in other spaces? Because I think the lack of that public availability of information has had a lot of different conversations of what may be lost.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So people that have spoken to me and mentioned the large meeting room, I've had to be really careful, of course. I've said that has not been mentioned. It's not on the cards. However, there are a couple of designs in going through the process which do not include that. But I'm not at liberty to share that information.
And just one last question, and I guess it's an assumption because I don't know the answer and I've read the names. Do you think there's a high number of people that have signed the petition that use both the library and the service centre currently? Are they the same users?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
So there's 700 now, so I think I read the 500 list of names. Of those 500, do you think there are ratepayers amongst there that actually both enjoy using the library and both get services done at the service centre? So access two services a council currently have to go to two different places.
I have no idea. I haven't got a. That's sorry. That's a question that I don't think anybody knows the answer to.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just to be clear, the issue is, could you just clarify that the issue is about consultation? Because we are also talking about possible design, where the, the service desk could be positioned and that type of thing. But my understanding, and I just want to get clarity, is that this is actually about the lack of consultation. Is that right?
Thank you, Councillor Butler. It's about consultation for with the community board and also with the community as a whole, but also exploring other options because we weren't part of the briefing and we didn't have the information. We don't know whether the old library was looked at, whether some of the vacant commercial premises in Motueka were explored. So we definitely, primarily, is the lack of consultation, but also multiple other options. Have they been taken into consideration? Because we have no idea.
Anything further? Any other questions? Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I do appreciate everybody that's come in. I mean, I get that this is a highly topical topic that we are talking about. And Donna, I acknowledge the korero that you brought to the table. I acknowledge that you see, and we see, the library as a sanctuary, that the po are significant, as is the artwork. What I struggle to understand are some of the messages that have been coming from Community Board, from our community. So some of the mixed messaging is about how much space we're talking about if we were to continue down the track of using the current U library. The other mixed messaging that I want to get across to our community is, having read the 500 odd submissions, 562 that we got yesterday afternoon, and gone through, and just like the Deputy Mayor, I read every single one of those, and I'm very mindful of most of those people because I know them in my community. But the mixed messaging that I get is around your shared space, and you just need to go back and look at the minutes from the Mock Community Board meeting, public forum on the 21st of April, when we had a presenter sharing with us about his concerns with security in our library, and suspecting, even opened up, that we potentially could put security guards in our peaceful heart of community space. I note that as a message that I took on board. The other one that I have is also in our presentation at the Community Board on the 21st of July. Another person came and presented wanting to know why on earth we don't have a cafe in our space. You don't want the service centre, but you've got space for a cafe. So as an elected member for Motueka, I sit with very mixed messaging coming from you people who voted me in. So I stand by that's right, you don't have to vote me back in. I'm very aware that the decisions I make impact what happens to the future of Tasman District Council and me as an elected member. I wear that every day. Every day as elected members, we make decisions, rightfully or wrongfully, and I assure you, not everybody will ever be happy with decisions that me, Councillor Walker, makes. But I stand by the decision on what we made. What I do reflect, though, is that we need to be more transparent, and we need to take our community board a bit more closely along the journey of what we as elected members, voted by our community, on our decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. I got Councillor McNamara and Councillor Greening. Or not. It's not compulsory.
Yes, thank you all for your presentations. Look, I sit here as a Wakefield representative whose library was community run, community funded in a council building. We put the rates up to the point where they couldn't afford it, so it was closed. We don't have a service centre. We don't have a rec centre. We're in the process of trying to build a hub, which is currently going to be somewhat smaller than what was proposed in the annual plan. So if I were to share with you some of the comments and emails I've received about the rates rise, you would understand that when I campaigned for more affordable rates. So community expectations and affordable rates currently don't meet. We can't deliver what everybody wants and keep affordable rates. That's just not possible. And community expectation is increasing. And the government is telling us we need to bring our rates down to a cap. So we're in between a rock and a hard place. At some point, we either have to change community expectations or we just have to keep rating. So that's the dilemma we're facing. So I appreciate your sentiments, and I really do think we should have consulted you better. And I would like to think that going forward we will do. But I think you needed the full picture, and it needs to be presented well, and then we will we'll gladly hear what you've got to say as a result. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Councillor McNamara.
Yeah.
So just thank you. So with regards to Motueka, our rec centre, we didn't have one either. That was donated by the Goodman family to TDC. And we've only just got this new library 4.5 years ago. So it's not that Motueka has got a multitude of community facilities. Like I say, the big rec centre was donated by a local family. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Murray, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Greening.
Just through the chair, I just want to clarify that is absolutely untrue. Certainly, the Goodman family put $250,000 in the late 80s, but it has absolutely been funded by Tasman District Council, as have all the upgrades there. It is absolutely funded by the Tasman District Council and the community.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Greening.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly hear what has been said today and read the report. I just want to get a handle on the report. Is there a resolution here for Council to receive this report? Because I was a bit confused with how the document was structured.
No, so there isn't. So the resolution, which is 7.1, is the recommendation from the Motueka Community Board.
Yes.
With the 3 parts that are contained under it. So that is the recommended resolution, given that the Community Board has provided the report and the recommendation.
Yeah, so that's really the really confusing part, because it's written as if it's the Community Board making that. So I just wonder whether we should have a resolution that receives the report, and maybe a resolution that directs staff to brief the Community Board on the journey taken by Council and to improve communications with the Community Board.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. So I'll just come to Kelsey, just to cover off the process.
So through the chair, we've removed the receiving of any reports unless those reports are solely to receive that report. So if that committee or council has to receive that, then yes. But in this instance, no, we don't need to receive it.
However, clearly whoever moves, whatever they move, the recommendation is what is included. That is the Community Board's recommendation. It is open to whoever is a mover or seconder to move an alternative or the resolution that's recommended, as with all council recommendations that we receive. And so someone may move that we receive the report and brief. Yeah, that is over to a mover and seconder to determine. Is that clear, Councillor Greening?
Yeah. So I'm happy to move the report be received.
So just can you just tie-ho 2 seconds? I will come back to you in due course because effectively we've had the presentation, the opportunity to ask questions and people to make comments. At this point, if there are no further questions and or comments, what I intend to do is come back to the public forum, allow Mr. Graham to speak, then come back to this for a debate, and I will come to you, Councillor Greening, if you wish to move something at the start of that conversation.
Yeah, I just note that in the resolution, it's seeking a report on alternative lease options, and probably they're all in committee, but we looked at all of the lease options several times with several variations. So I don't know. We need another report on it. I think it's more sharing with the community board.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. So if you have a proposed resolution while Mr. Graham is speaking for his 10 minutes, if you could forward that to governance advisors, and then when I come back to open the debate about the item, I will come to you.
Cool. I'll put some words together.
Okay, thank you. Right, unless I've got Councillor Fernyhough, and then we'll, if there's no further questions, we'll break briefly for Mr. Graham's public forum, and then we'll come back to the discussion. Councillor Fernyhough.
Thank you, through the mayor. My question will actually be for staff, so I can hold it until deliberations.
Okay, thank you. Right, thank you very much. Thank you for the effort you've put into the report and for coming along and speaking to it today and being available to answer questions. So appreciate that. Mr. Graham. Welcome. So you have 10 minutes. So I will, there will be a little ding bell at about 9:30 if you happen to still be talking. So over to you.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou, morena. Kaunihera, koromatua, tēnā tātou katoa. Taking lessons from Cornwall Place and the pathway to genuine partnership is my 10 minutes focus today. My name is Shane Graham. I'm the Chief Executive of Whakahaere for the Runanga of Ngāti Rārua. I just firstly want to acknowledge up front that the officers and the elected members of this council have engaged with us constructively over recent months, particularly through the Kaihotu and John Ridd. Today is not an exercise in relitigating Cornwall Place. It's an opportunity to draw the lessons out of that experience and put forward a number of concrete, practical recommendations that make our two organisations better partners going forward. Cornwall Place at Tara Beach began as a straightforward property matter. Once one parcel identified in a wider 2025 disposal resolution. It became something larger because the process by which Ngāti Rārua learned of it and the process by which our interests were tested exposed a gap between council believed was adequate engagement and what mana whenua experienced as adequate engagement. That gap is the real subject of today's kōrero. It's not whether council acted in bad faith. The record shows the opposite. Once the issue was raised, council moved quickly and constructively to extend deadlines, meet with us and review the disposal process itself. The gap is structural, not personal, and structural gaps need structural fixes, not goodwill alone. What Cornwall Place taught us is the next phase of my submission today, and it's really 5 lessons that stand out. First one is a regional information circular is not an iwi engagement. Listing a property for disposal and circulating that through an iwi COGM forum satisfies a general notification standard, but it does not identify site-specific cultural, historical or archaeological significance. Only direct engagement with the affected iwi can surface that. Tara Beach and Liger Bay are named in our deed of settlement statements of association for a reason, and context does not travel with a spreadsheet line item. The second lesson learned was process gaps surface late and lateness has a cost. Because the significance of this site was not tested early, it was tested publicly, through a submission and hearing process well after council had already committed to a public consultation pathway. Every one of us in this room has spent more time and more goodwill resolving this matter than an early conversation would have ever required. Good faith is necessary but not sufficient. I want to be direct about this. I do believe TDC acted without any intent to exclude Ngāti Rārua. But good faith on its own does not guarantee good outcomes. If the underlying process does not require direct engagement on sites of known and likely significance, we need a process that produces the right outcome, even when no individual official happens to catch the issue. Governance and hearing structures matter as much as the initial notification. Our briefing material for the Cornwall Place hearing raised the absence of Mātauranga Māori representation on the panel. Considering a matter with clear cultural and archaeological dimensions, this is a governance design question Council can address independently of any single property. A single disposal decision is never really a single decision. Cornwall Place is one parcel among many identified for potential disposal. Whatever process gap existed here exists for every other property on that list and for every future list. Treating Cornwall Place as a one-off closes the file on the property without closing the gap that it produced. In 2023, the 8 iwi of Te Tauihu and the mayors of Tasman, Nelson and Marlborough signed Kia Kotahi Te Tauihu, the Together Te Tauihu Partnership Agreement. That agreement recognised the distinct and important roles iwi and councils each play in the social, cultural, environmental, economic well-being of this region, and committed all parties to weave those roles more closely together, backed by a 3-year action plan and reviewed mechanisms. Cornwall Place is a direct test of that commitment, and an agreement of that standing is not fulfilled at the signing table. It is fulfilled in the ordinary business of council, in exactly the kind of process like the property disposal resolution that does not usually attract regional attention. If Together Te Tauihu means anything operationally, it means that the partnership principles it sets out should be visible in how council identifies, notifies and consults on decisions that touch land of cultural significance, not only in the strategic relationship above it. The proposition tonight is simple. Let Cornwall Place be a case study that turns Together Te Tauihu's stated intentions into specific working protocols, not another example filed away as a one-off resolved matter. On behalf of Te Rūnanga o Ngāti Rārua, I put forward the following 4 recommendations for consideration by Council. Recommendation 1, adopt a direct iwi notification protocol for property disposals. Before any property is placed into public consultation for disposal or change in management, Council screens it against known cultural, historical, statutory acknowledgement and archaeological interests, and directly notifies the affected iwi authority, not solely via a regional circular with a defined response window ahead of public notification. Recommendation 2, embed the protocol as a named action Together Tauihu action plan. This makes the commitment durable across council terms and staff turnover, and gives the same standing as the agreements that has with other regional priorities. With progress reported through the agreement's existing review mechanisms, rather than left to individual relationships. Recommendation 3, ensure Mātauranga Māori representation on hearing panels considering matters of cultural or archaeological significance. Where a hearing panel is convened to consider a matter engaging iwi cultural interest, that panel should include a member with the relevant Mātauranga Māori competency, consistent with better practice models already in use elsewhere in local government. Final recommendations, commit an annual joint review of the property disposal program, a short session between Council and Te Tauihu partners to walk through the forward disposal program, flag emergency sites of interest early, and review how the notification protocol performed in practice over the preceding year. In closing, Cornwall Place has in the end done something useful for the region. It has shown both of us, Council and Ngāti Rārua, precisely where the seams are at in our partnership and where they sit. This is a better outcome than either side pretending the seam is not there. I'm not asking Council today, to litigate a single property. I'm asking Council to take lesson of this property and turn it into a standing process, one that reflects the partnership this Council and the iwi signed up to 3 years ago. Done well, this becomes a genuine case study on how Crown, local government and iwi, our relationships mature into tauhu moving forward. Haere rā, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Shane. Thank you very much for coming in and speaking to those points. So appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you.
If you have, are you happy to leave the speaking notes with?
I'll leave them, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll take off my notes.
Right, so we'll continue on with the conversation around Motueka Library. So, Councillor Ferniehow, you had a question, and then I'll come to Councillor Greening.
Thank you, through the mayor. My question is around the feasibility of using the old library. When the report came to us, we had two options. We had the eyesight or the new library. And following that conversation and following the resolution in council was then a following conversation about, oh, well, what are we going to do with the old library? And essentially looking at potentially refitting it and using it again, which I was not led to believe was a possibility. And so I would really like to have some clarity around what is the plan for the old library, or if we don't know that yet, when is that decision going to come to council to be made? Because to me, I see the two things going hand in hand.
John.
There, the first question is, when is it going to? It needs to be part of the long-term plan. We've got that as part of the long-term plan conversation. It's something the board also, we've talked to the board about, having a discussion about. We need their input into what happens with the old library. I'm not going to make off-the-cuff remarks. I would say, apart from my understanding, there's a significant investment required in that old building to make it suitable.
Thank you. Looking at this resolution, it's requesting that the works are put on hold while we do explore further options, which in my mind would include looking at what happens to the old library. I'm wondering, with the timeline of the current service center being closed, what timeline are we looking at here, and is a pause even possible? Or what would happen if we did pause?
We have to exit that building on the 7th of March next year, so we're up against it time-wise. So the longer it takes to make a decision, the more we're up against it.
Thank you. Councillor Greening, and then Councillor Neubauer.
I've emailed you some draft motions that councillors may want to entertain. I've separated them into 4 different parts. I don't know how you want to run this.
Well, it's really over to you how you want to run it. If I've come to you to move a resolution, you move what it is you want to move, and I will look for a seconder if there is one in the room.
Okay, so first motion is receives the report and recommendations from the extraordinary Motueka Community Board meeting of 3 August 2026. I've emailed these to TC Governance, they're probably on the board. Direct staff to brief the Motueka Community Board on the journey taken by Council, including confidential reports on options for the service centre and library over the last 6 years. Notes that staff will improve communications with the board and Motueka community in relation to the service centre and library. And 4, invites the Community Board to discuss and review the options Council has adopted with the Council in a workshop, should it be required, contemplating here that the briefing may be sufficient enlightenment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Greening. Bear with. I will look for a seconder. If you're happy to be that person, then that's all good. So, seconded by Councillor Neubauer. Do you wish to speak to your seconding?
Yeah. Well, I had a few questions as well. I think what we've heard from Mr. Graham, but also from members of the Motueka community, is communication communication, and I think this motion probably meets that need. So that's well, I'm happy to second that. What I have heard is that the community is incredibly proud of a community asset that this council has created, and I think that is something that we as a council can be proud of. There are a lot of concerns that I'm not entirely sure whether they need to be concerns, and that's why I would like to test some of those. A lot of concerns relate to the incompatibility of the uses of a library and a service centre. I assume that JTB architects would have an opinion on that. Have we heard anything from the architects about issues around the integration of a service centre into the library?
I assume that's a question to council staff.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we've had a number of conversations with the architects, and that has resulted in a number of different versions of potential options. And the option which was attached to this paper for councillors identified the ones that the architects felt were the best suited to bringing those two functions together within the one space.
But my question was, did they voice any concern about integrating the service centre into a library?
No, they did not.
That is very good to know, and I think that is actually important for the community to understand as well, and we should probably make a point of communicating that, since I would see architects of having a certain amount of knowledge in that space. The community brought to our attention an earlier report by the same architects that put a figure of 450 square metres on the size of the service centre, which is now reduced down to 40 square metres. Can we understand how that is possible?
Through you, Chair, I think that was it was before my time, but I think that was the original library design, looked at incorporating a customer centre. Times have moved on, we're delivering different services, that's why we've come to 40 square metres.
Brilliant. Again, I think that needs to be communicated to the community, what we're actually talking about, because there seems to be a lot of concern about us getting a foot in the door and then this service centre basically growing out of control and the library kind of going out the back door. And I think we need to be clear that this is not the case. We're talking about less than 4% of the foot of the actual square meterage of the whole library. Have the architects actually looked at an integration of these new workspaces into the existing spatial framework? There is already an existing staff room, which to me, looking at it, seems to have space to fit another 4 workspaces into it. Has that option been analysed?
Through the Mayor, yes, it has. A number of different iterations have been looked at, including the incorporation of additional desk space within the existing staff area for library staff. In consultation with library staff and service centre staff, it was felt that the functions that those two groups of people undertook were such that having them work in the same office space wasn't going to be effective, and hence why there was that separation between the two.
So the impact on their workflow was deemed worse than the impact of potential loss of public library space.
Through the Mayor, I wouldn't agree that it was that binary, but in making the determination that, or responding to the resolution that the two functions should be combined, we then entered into a conversation about what is the best way to achieve that with the least impact, both on the library floor area and also on the functioning of those two groups. So it wasn't a binary conversation, but it was something that we arrived at through a process of iteration. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. I just ask maybe we can keep that option in our minds as we're progressing this discussion. As it would A, be a cost saving, not having to build anything, and B, would probably satisfy the community a bit more in that less library space would be lost. However, speaking about lost library space, I've actually been in that library yesterday and paced out how much library space would be lost, and it appears to me like it is one bookshelf, which with clever arrangement is probably possible to be rearranged. I do agree with the community board that we should be clear in our communication about what sort of options have been analysed, the consolidation being one. Personally, I haven't actually been aware of the old library. I was a bit surprised to hear that we've got an asset sitting in Motueka that's been unused for the last 3-4 years, but costing us money while it's locked up and just sitting there. So I would really like to understand a little bit better, and I see that, probably somewhat separate from this discussion as to what the plans actually are for that building. But nevertheless, we do need to understand the cost implications of, if it were to move into that space, and I can understand that the operational expenditure would probably be astronomically higher compared to the consolidation option. And of course, we do need to also look at the option of that Councillor Ellis has referred to, which is not to have a service centre in Motueka at all. So my question is that something that needs to be consulted on with the community?
So I think the answer to that question is absolutely yes, it would be, and that at this stage, as far as I'm aware, the council has had no conversation, discussion, report about not having a service centre in Motueka. So I know it's been raised and it's kind of come up and people have joined dots, but unless I'm mistaken and I wasn't here, as far as I'm aware, there has been zero conversation about that. Now, if that becomes a conversation as part of the LTP, when we're reviewing all of the services, then obviously that would be consulted on through the LTP.
The reason why I'm bringing this up, Mr. Mayor, is if the community prefers that option over integrating the service centre into the library, then we should take that seriously.
I suspect what you'll find is, just like every other decision, there'll be views in the community on both sides of that particular conversation, and we'll be left in the same situation we are now, which is making a decision with a range of views. I suspect there will be people who may well support, if they don't use the service centre and use the library a lot, they may say no need for a service centre. Conversely, those who rely on the service centre and don't necessarily use the library will probably have a different perspective. So we would have to canvass all of those options. As far as I read this resolution, this does not change the decision that we have made.
I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Councillor Ferniho, and then there's a question from Leith.
Thank you, and through the mayor. I have to disagree with Councillor Neubauer's comment that the old library decision is separate from this decision, because for me, they are intertwined. Because if we're making this decision to put the service centre into the new library and then are still making a decision to continue having the old library as an asset, including refitting it, and eventually potentially having ongoing operational costs there anyway, it would make the most sense to me that it is in there. But at this point, we don't actually know if the library could be suitable, if the library is going to be there, if we're going to have ongoing operational costs, if we're going to have refit out costs. So I'm sitting in this position where I actually don't feel like I have enough information. And so I will foreshadow that should this fail, I will move the original motion based on the fact that I would like to have more information. And I do think that we need to bring the old library conversation alongside this conversation.
Leith, question.
Through the chair, just a question of clarification for the mover and seconder. Assuming this resolution is passed, what happens next? Is there a report back to council? Does the decision stand? From a staff's perspective, I suspect there's more clarity needed.
So my reading of the resolution is it's about communicating the decision that's been made, the basis on which it was made, but it doesn't change the resolution of council. That's my reading of the resolution Councillor Greening has moved and that Councillor Neubauer has seconded. If it needs a further resolution to report back the outcomes of that communication, then they may wish to add a further point. But as it reads now, it's not changing the council's former resolution or position. I'll come to Councillor Greening to clarify.
Yeah, so the opportunity, I'm trying to step through a process, which is, first of all, brief the community board on the journey we've taken. And those confidential reports that maybe Councillor Fenhill is not aware of is that it did include a discussion around the old library. Hence why I've made it 6 years rather than 3. Councillor may want to get access to those reports that discuss the old library and the costs incurred in its maintenance and bringing up to standard. But those are confidential documents, so I'm not allowed to talk about them. Once that's occurred, if then the community board think that still leaves issues that they want to discuss with council, then I've invited them to basically, in the fourth option, seek a workshop with us to tease out any issues. Probably what might be missing in here, and I imagine that's the clarity, is how this all comes together in terms of timing. I mean, I could put in here some clarity around that, and I was trying to get clarity from the earlier discussion around our timelines and how this will need to happen before anything is implemented. But I'm hoping that the journey will be sufficient for the community board to understand how council arrived at the decision it did, and hopefully that will be the resolution in itself. But if it isn't, there's a workshop where we can tease out other options where they think maybe we've missed something. So I don't know whether we need that, or whether the council staff are aware that the timing just needs to take in consideration. If a workshop is requested, that things will just have to be paused slightly. But if they want direction on a pause, if there's a workshop, I can add some words, or maybe staff could add some words.
So I think the clarification that is needed is there needs to be some form of reporting back the outcomes of 1 to 4. And that could be as simple as reports back to a future full council meeting, the outcomes of items 1 to 4.
Sounds great. Can someone add that?
If you're happy as the mover and the seconder. I think the time frame, though, is important to remember, because March is not that far away. This resolution does not change the position of council. On that basis, council staff are proceeding with the work that's being undertaken around the design, potentially tendering the work to get it done. So it is effectively a resolution to continue while having a conversation with the community board about the whys and wherefores of how we arrived at what options were considered, etc., etc. So just for clarity, there probably is going to be very difficult to pause and still meet the time frame around the need to change from the existing service centre. Just my view.
Well, I think fit out could be paused, but if we land on it, then it won't need to be. But can I just also add that I think it's really important that the community board may be also made aware of the frank advice that was given to local government New Zealand on libraries as a vehicle for service delivery. I think that would be an informative document to read as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Neubauer, and I've got a number of other speakers. So bearing in mind, Councillor Greening, you will have a right of reply as the mover of the resolution, so I am not likely to come back to you prior to that point. So Councillor Ellis, I note your dissatisfaction, but trying to amend the resolution did require the mover and seconder to have a view rather than go through an amendment.
Yes, thank you very much, and I think you actually hit the nail on the head by talking about the timeline, and that is precisely why I'm supporting this resolution. while I do agree with Councillor Fernieho that in an ideal world we would get a lot more information around all the options and all the community's desires, actually, which aren't necessarily yet reflected in our discussions here, and how those could be integrated with the assets that we actually have in the community and what that means in terms of CAPEX and OPEX in the long run. However, my concern is that I've heard from staff that we need to move on this. Otherwise, we're not going to have anything to move into. So I want to understand, do we actually have time to do all of this analysis, bring that back to council, have a discussion about it, and then continue the journey? Or do we really have to make a decision more or less today?
Steve.
Through the Mayor, if we examine the current timeline through to needing to exit Hickmott Place at the end of March, we are absolutely at the edge of the window for what we currently know about design and then the project to deliver the changes within the library. What this process has told me, though, is that getting the answer right is probably more important than the timeline in this instance. And as I have been pressured by the design company and the project team to say we need to get some resolution here and there, I've thought, well, yeah, that's true, but we shouldn't be driven by the project to refit the library if refitting the library in the way that it is currently presented to elected members is not the right thing to do. So the consequence of spending time on the outcomes of this resolution may be that we don't have somewhere to go at the end of March, and that will present us with a short-term problem. But that might be a problem that councillors are prepared to accept in the face of making the right decision in terms of having that information communicated. Learning from what's been said in public forum this morning and learning about the conversations that we've had, I think we need to get this right, not get it as timely as a project company and a design company might want us to.
Could I, in that case, have some clarity on what the implications would actually be, also financially, if we don't have anywhere to go at that point?
Oh, it's through the Mayor. I'm thinking on my feet. It would be a contemporary delivering services for Motueka Contemporary out of Richmond. Those are the only things I can think of on the hoof, neither of which are particularly attractive.
Okay, so we've got a resolution. It's been moved and seconded. Whether the mover and seconder fully comprehend the outcomes of the resolution, that I guess remains to be seen. But that is the resolution we're discussing, and that resolution leaves the project in place, it leaves it being worked on, and it communicates with the community board. So as long as we're all clear, that's what it means when we're all voting on the outcome of said resolution, because at the moment, this resolution does not pause, change, or alter the timeline. Right, Deputy Mayor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. So I'm going to support the resolution moved by Councillor Greening and seconded by Councillor Neubauer. And I guess I have absolutely heard the feedback from the community. I've absolutely read the names on the list that we were provided earlier. I have talked to a number of people, I think every JP that sits in the service desk on a Saturday at the library have rung me concerned about losing space in the library. The bit I absolutely accept is the clarity, and in fact, I don't know if I'm 100% clear in terms of the latest re-litigation after the staff have provided their feedback of the little space that is being taken. But at that stage, when I did know it was the little meeting room, I think that may have changed. So there's been a lot of comment in terms of the minimal impact on the footprint when that conversation I've had with people face to face have gone, oh. And then we move on to, but there's a safety issue for our customer service staff that the library don't face. And Councillor Walker's covered off in terms of all our public spaces have safety issues, and it's not acceptable at any place, whether that's a customer service place or the librarian space, or even us as elected members when we go to a Sunday market. It's interesting how polite and reasonable our ratepayers and residents are face to face, and I appreciate the frank conversations I've had with the people in the community compared to some of the noise I see on some of the platforms. There's nothing I've heard. Certainly, Dottie, your presentation made me think in terms of the wider significance of how you've brought the iwi influence and created a space that Motueka is absolutely has the heart of that. I just want to go back in history because I sat with former councillor David Ogilvie on the working group for this library, and we had a lot of contention around this building when we were building it in terms of adding cultural elements to that. So this hasn't been all roses all the way through, but to the work of those involved, in acknowledge you, Donna, and to Janine and her team, we have a library that is absolutely fantastic. And to be fair, it's probably not because of us, it's because of our community and the team that fronts that. But for anything I ask the people in the gallery is where credit's due. You certainly tell us when we get things wrong in council. Give us a little bit of credit about the little part that we may have played around this table of getting the library right with your help and working with you. There's nothing I've heard here that changes my mind in terms of why those services can't be compatible. And I just wanted to dispel a myth, and I think I said that at the community board's last meeting, is we talk about the old library as an asset. To me, it's a liability sitting on our books and we're not sure what we want to do with it. So there is a number of community groups over a long period of time that have indicated a desire to have and use that building. There's not a long list of people that have had that same desire that want to invest in the costs that will take to get that building up and ready. So what I heard through the campaigning I had, there was some really key important things for Motueka. The swimming pool that's been a 40-year journey. We have a fantastic library that we're absolutely proud of. We have got to be very careful in terms of, for the 3 elected members from Motueka, where we absolutely ask you to support us and invest in Motueka. And for me, that's still at the swimming pool in terms of that. And this isn't a compromise in costs. I actually see the 2 front services actually being really beneficial to a number of our ratepayers that use both. So apart from my role as an elected member, I don't use either the service desk or the library. But I certainly am in the library often as an elected member of the meetings we have here. But there are absolutely people that use both. So if I was to pay my rate invoice in person, I probably would get a library book at the same time. I absolutely do get the frustration because I've sat in the seat of the community board in terms of the surprise and not being able to be more involved, and I absolutely take that on board. But this table also needs to take this on board. So if I take you back to the decision, there was a request from staff to keep that decision of this land sale of Hickman Place confidential, and there was a pushback here. The decision's been made that needs to be public, which took up all that opportunity for our executive leadership team to consult with staff. It took all that opportunity to go, let's get all this right before we put something out in public. So to the hurriedness, that's this table's fault. That's our fault because we forced that decision to be public very, very quickly after we made it. So I guess, thank you, Councillor Greening, for your resolution. I think I acknowledged that when I moved this was a concept you haven't just suggested for Motueka in terms of how our libraries and service centres may be integrated in the future. So on that, I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Ellis, Councillor Butler, Councillor Kinnermont.
I thank you through you, Mayor. I mean, this is a beautiful lesson on, we hear too so often that why doesn't council run itself like a business? And this is precisely why council cannot run itself like a business. Because the decision made by 15 people around this table was a really good business decision, and our community has balked at it. Now, I've listened to everybody, I've thought about this so much over so much time, and I agree with the comments made by everybody in this discussion. Everybody is correct. And the reason I made this decision in the first place comes from a point that Councillor Fernieho's made, is we need a good plan for what's going on in Motueka. And I have advocated for that since I've come on, and the millions of conversations we've had about the multitude of buildings that we have that we are or are not using, and they're costing us money. And to me, this was a really good fix for now, while we still continue to make those decisions, because these discussions have been going on since before I ever came onto council. And I apologise to the community that you feel you haven't been carried on with this discussion, because, you know, we've been having these discussions round and round and round for more than 4 years. And it has also been a priority for me for us to work out a strategic plan within Motueka for the long term. which is precisely why I supported this, because we are still not there yet. We're trying to work that out with the Motueka Master Plan. That's all gone because we're trying to do spatial plans for the whole reason because the government's changed their legislation. And so to me, this was a decision that for now, make sure that we retain those services, we're not costing the ratepayers any more money than is necessary, and it gives us an opportunity to make a really good plan into the future about what the community in Motueka absolutely needs. And because the advantage for this, for me, is things that other councillors have talked about the community being able to continue to use this beautiful space, which I note a lot of the community called a vanity project right at the beginning, and look how treasured it is by the community. So bear that in mind too. This doesn't, in my view, have to be a permanent decision. It is, to me, the best decision for now. And people who have submitted and said that the community in Motueka is going to grow, totally agree. Certainly could outgrow that space that we have looked to put into the library. In fact, I expect it to happen, because my expectation would be that at that point we would have had a really good review and understand exactly what the community of Motueka truly needs, that's going to be done on a cost-effective basis. And when that happens, people can come out of that library, and we actually have yet another separate special meeting room that library can use. To me, it's not taking away, it's actually adding to that space in the long term. I will be supporting this, and I thank you, Lee, for bringing up the point about timing, because I think it's really important that we get moving on this project. So, because for me, it is a serious concern about what will happen to the service centre for Motueka.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Butler, then Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you. Through the chair. I voted for this, and before I voted, I asked the question of staff whether or not the community had been consulted, and I was told they had been. So I am feeling that I voted in favour on the basis of inaccurate information, and I have some regrets about that. I won't be supporting this because I think that we need to continue on with the process that was underway as a councillor, working through the options over the last 2 terms. I've just come into a dead space because we didn't continue on with the reasons really for not using the old library. So for me, I would have to have more information, and I support Councillor Fernyho's shadow resolution. And just in regards to the actual planning and the design that we've been given, I cannot believe that a design like that, given all the concern from the community, could even be considered when the queue for people going to the service desk is right in the middle of the library. And I would, if this does eventuate that the 2 services are combined, then there needs to be a complete rethink of how the service centre side of things would fit into the library, possibly with another entrance, so that the 2 groups don't even encounter each other. So yeah, I don't accept either of the designs. I think that they're just flying in the face of the needs of both groups of people. Thanks. So no, I won't be supporting it, but I will support the shadow resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'll keep it very quick. We've heard around the table today about a number of issues of lack of communication, types of communication, who said what, Chinese whispers. I'm sick of it. I want to see this project go ahead. My only question is, when will the plans be publicised of the actual size in the library?
So, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Steve.
In effect, they are now. This is an open session of council, and they were included in the papers as an attachment. But clearly, we will, and listening to the room, we need to put some decent communications around those plans as options. Notwithstanding the conversations that we're going to have from this point forward, might change how that might look.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers before I come back to Councillor Greening for his right of reply? For my 2 cents worth, I think the thing that I find the most difficult is Councillor Butler's last point. The two groups of people. Like they're two entirely separate groups. There are roughly 15,000 people live in Motueka, give or take, in their surrounding area. 110,000 visits to the library every year. 7,500 people taking away the AA service, which is going to be separate now, to the service centre. It seems to me it's inevitable a lot of those are the same people. They are from the community and they attend both. The idea that these two distinct groups of people need a separate entrance and a separate counter and a separate everything to undertake two different functions that are provided by the council, I find that hard to comprehend. 110,000 people, rough 400-ish people a day go into the library. 7,500 is roughly 30 people a day going to the service centre, broken by 7 hours, that's 4 people an hour. The idea of these humongous queues every day interfering with the library activities, again, I'm just not sure how the adding of 1 and 1 has become 25, and it's like there's this huge problem waiting to happen. There will be times, particularly around the rating period, where there will be quite a number of people utilising the service centre because it isn't linear, and so we don't have 28 people every day. It goes up and down. So there will be periods where it's congested, as I'm sure it is now at the library, as we see out here in the Richmond Service Centre. Dog registration is the other big driver of attendance at front desks. That is changing because we're going to permanent dog tags. So the need for everybody to turn up and collect their little plastic tags is going to diminish. I think it's clear over time as generational change happens and IT options become better and more available that more people will not need to go into a service centre at all. So I know there's no coming back, Councillor Butler, you had your chance. Councillor Greening will get his right of reply. I just think there's perhaps I understand the concern. I understand what it's driven from and why the concern is there. But the vast majority of people who come into the library and go into the service centre are good, solid, everyday citizens who walk in, do their business quietly, without interfering or interrupting anyone, and then walk out again with their job done. Just are the vast majority of people who go into the library. There are occasionally, in both service centres and libraries, I would hasten to add, customers that are not quite so amenable. And that is a challenge that everyone who works in front-facing public services has to deal with. So, look, I support the resolution. I supported the original resolution, and I think we just need to get on. And I am confident that both of these services can be provided in the same space to the community of Motueka in a way that is not initially particularly disruptive. So that's my perspective. Councillor Greening for his right of reply.
Not much to really add here, apart from agree with much of what has been said by Councillor Maru, King, McNamara and Timu. So with that, I will put it to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. I'll put the resolution. All in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? I'll do a show of hands just to be sure. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The resolution is carried. Thank you. So we will break now for 10 minutes and come back for the next item. because of the slightly disjointed start to the meeting, to the minute confirmation. So there are the open minutes of the Cornwall Place Tarter Beach options hearing and deliberations meeting from the 29th of June. So somebody who was part of that conversation, moved Councillor Kinnemont, seconded Councillor Hume. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. There is an amendment to the open minutes of the Tasman District Council meeting on the 9th of July. There were a couple of names that were in the open minutes for external staying in that were wrong, and that has been corrected. Someone like to move that? Councillor Kinnemont, seconded.
Happy second.
Deputy Mayor Maru, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And lastly, the confidential minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of July. Move Councillor Kinnemont again. Seconded Councillor Hume. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, now we'll move on to the use of 71 Commercial Street, Takaka, in relation to storage for the Anaweka Waka, Leith and Grant. Over to you.
Kia ora koutou, through the chair. So this report seeks Council's decision on whether 79 to 81 Commercial Street, Takaka is a suitable location for a whare waka to be built, and whether lease arrangements should be put in place. Following the previous meeting of Council, we've engaged with the community and they're via Shape Tasman, via our socials and via Newsline. The results of that feedback is included in this report. In summary, there is strong community support for a whare waka to be built in its proposed location, around 66% of the respondents. And many of those respondents considered that its proximity to the Golden Bay Museum had a significant advantage, both creating a heritage precinct, enabling shared resources, and being able to enhance visitor experience. There were some concerns raised by the community during consultation, including the loss of green space in Takaka, the relocation of monuments, and the traffic, parking and safety concerns. The proposal before you is consistent with the reserve's current classification, being local purpose reserve cultural heritage, and is supported by the customary owners of the waka, and has been developed in consultation with some key stakeholders, including the Golden Bay Museum. The decision today provides certainty for the work to progress, and that work being the lodging of consents and work on an appropriate body to manage the whare waka when complete. It also allows the customary owners to investigate further possible ongoing ownership model for the building when it's complete. And the report makes it clear that if that proposal includes the council in some way, then that would require future council consideration through a long-term plan process. And I would just note there's been a minor change to the resolutions, requesting that the Golden Bay Community Board can engage with the community and decide on alternative locations for both the Settlers Monument and other parks asset. I'm available to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
Displayed on screen, please.
Sorry, Mark. Oh, sorry, yeah, the resolution on screen.
please.
Yep, coming up. Councillor Butler, then Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, thank you for that small addition, because I think that is there are some other memorials in there which are important to people. So I would like to move these resolutions, and I think the most important things to consider for the community are that this is not a council expense. It's not going to take up people's rates, which has been an assumption by a number of people in the community. This is we've had a large number of submissions from people who say this is a Golden Bay asset. It's a very important taonga and it should stay in Golden Bay. And my understanding also is that there is not actually an option to send it elsewhere for example, to Te Papa, because the understanding is that it needs to stay where in the location where it was found, and it's not, if it went to Te Papa, it would possibly just sit in a basement. We don't know. So we can't make any assumptions about what would happen to it if it left the bay. So that was a number of submissions being concerned about that. So with that, yes, I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I'll look for a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Fernyhough. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you. I just have some questions around the lease arrangement itself. Would that be based on the community occupancy policy?
Through the chair, that policy, I understand, hasn't been finalised, but yes, it would be.
Okay, that's brilliant. And the only other question I have is we're not entering into a 33-year lease that we can't get out of if this doesn't happen, right?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. If for whatever reason this project doesn't commence, then that lease will not be activated.
Yeah, then I'm absolutely supportive.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further comments, questions, or feedback? Councillor Woods.
Yeah, I think you've answered it around the lease, but if the building was vacated during the lease, if for some reason that happened, would the lease require the land to be put back to original condition?
Through the chair, that is, I understand, standard wording in our leases. So potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Oh, thank you. I've just got a question, excuse me, regarding the movement of the other monuments in the park. I'm guessing that would likely come at a cost to council, and I'm just checking that would be true. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair. I believe that the people leasing it will be putting the money forward for it, so it won't come at a cost to council. That's what I'm told.
Okay, thank you. Anything for Councillor Walker?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So can you just clarify, though, that through what we've just heard from the community board, that the cost will be covered to remove? Will they also cover the cost to be reinstated and all that means?
Through the chair, yes, that's my understanding.
And again, just through the chair, a couple of days ago, we had an offer from one of the community members to pay for the restoration of the main monument, to repaint it and get the power back onto it and a light on the top. So when it gets moved, that's already been taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Greening and then Councillor Killenmont.
Thanks. Just in relation to the last point raised by Grant there, do we have an agreement, that agreement in place, or is it just an undertaking and not actually enforceable?
Through the chair, can you clarify what agreement you're seeking?
That's what I'm trying to get. Grant raised the fact that someone was willing to pay for the monument's relocation and lighting and so forth. I'm just wondering, will we be entering into an agreement for that? Or is it just an undertaking that can be backed out?
It actually came to me just 2 days ago from a member of the community who's lost a friend, and his friend's request was to have it reinstated, the monument reinstated, repainted, cleaned, the marble slabs taken off and repurposed, painted, and it's going to be paid for as far as I know. So it's only come as of 2 days ago, so we could probably get that in writing eventually.
Yeah. Can I ask staff to follow that up so we do have that in writing if that's the case? Don't want that opportunity lost. just wanted to also, I was going to actually put in an amendment which was just noting the purpose clause which you've alluded to in the agreement, which was, I don't know if it's required, but I was going to put it in, which was just notes that the lease should contain a permitted use clause, so the lease is terminated if the land is not used for a facility to house the Anika Waka. Do you think that is needed, or have you provided that clarity orally in this meeting?
Leith.
Through the chair, my view is that it's not needed. If for whatever reason the project doesn't go ahead, then there'll be no actual lease agreement entered into. So,
No, I'm just conscious that if the project falls over halfway through and the Waka building isn't built, we still have an exit clause. So not falling over before we get there, but falling over after we've signed the lease.
through the chair, I mean that is something that we can work with whoever it is we enter into a lease with.
Okay, so then can I add then a note to that effect? So I will send this to governance, but what it reads is notes that the lease should contain a permitted use clause, so the lease is terminated if the land is not used for the facility to house the Anika Waka. I just want to make that clear. The other point I just want to clarify is the lease value. What's the current proposed lease value? Is it peppercorn or what's the story?
Through the chair, no, it's not peppercorn. It's in line with what will be our community leasing policy. But I don't have that number to hand, sorry.
So will that be a market rate or something less than market rate?
So it'll be in line with the policy that the council finalises for community leases, which are yet to be finalised, as I suspect will the previous point you made over leases and what they contain in regards to things that are not proceeded with, finished halfway through, abandoned, etc. So rather than add a lot of clauses to this resolution, I think my feeling is both of your concerns are appropriate concerns. Both of them will be covered by the policy under which the lease will be entered into.
Okay. Then can I just also address, I think, para 58, which was suggesting there might be some comeback. I just want to get, again, clarity that council will not be providing any funding for any facility to house the Waka or any other building or structure located on the leased land, which I imagine is outside the policy.
Through the chair, so paragraph 58 talks about the ultimate decision for the ownership of the whare waka. And as I made it clear in my opening, that decision has not been made yet by the customary owners. And if that decision involves council, then it will be coming back to council for a decision.
So do we need to note that we will not be funding or contributing any funds to the facility?
So I'm reasonably confident, Councillor Greening, that there is currently no funding, no indication of funding, and no request for funding. However, as I'm sure you're aware, this council or a subsequent council, which we cannot bind by any resolution, may or may not choose to fund should it be asked at some point. So I don't think it adds anything to try and include a resolution about something that hasn't even been suggested and or asked at this point. And as Leith pointed out, if any funding request from any party for anything will require council's approval.
I just note your observation that no council can bind another council, and yet when we were confronted with reviewing the CEO's delegation, we were told we couldn't revisit that until the end of the period. But anyway,
I'm just clarifying, Councillor Greening, that you can't decide that the council will never fund something on one particular day and look to bind councils for eternity. It's just not within the councils, which is what you're discussing at the moment.
Yes, it's for another council to overturn that should they wish to do it. So I'm happy to move then that amendment, which is just making it very clear, in case there's any community concern, that we're going to be throwing additional funds into this, and that it's very revenue neutral. So I will send that to
So
EDC governments.
is there a seconder for Councillor Greening's suggested amendment? There is not. So it lapses for want of a seconder, Councillor Greening.
Okay.
So is there any further discussion in regards to the overall resolution? Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I just also want to recognise the work that's been done previously in getting us to this position. Chris Hill was a councillor. She's done a hell of a lot of work, and we've all been over to have a look at the Waka, and I'm very, very impressed with what's happening there. It should stay there, and I support what's happening in this resolution. My question is to you, Leif, the tenure of the 33-year lease, does that include any right renewals?
Through the chair, my understanding is under the Reserves Act that it can't. That's the total tenure of lease. Obviously, as it gets to the end of that, if it's entered into, there can be a conversation about entering into a new lease agreement.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara.
Thanks. Just a discussion about the design. There were some questions raised and it was said it wasn't set in concrete, or I'm just wondering, have we seen the final design, or are we yet to see it? Or
through the chair, I have not seen a final design, so it's not, as far as I'm aware, set in concrete. We are in the process of preparing a resource consent, which I assume does have some design elements in it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hume.
Just to follow up on Dean's about the consultation process on the design. There's been quite a bit of to and froing in Golden Bay community about this project, and they would like a reassurance from council that there is no cost to council, which we've already discussed, nothing coming up as far as the rental property goes. I think the building side of it does need to go to the public out for consultation, and it may be that we don't have to take that whole of the corner of that Pioneer Park for that one item, and I know a few other items as well, so it could be something to be looked at.
Through the chair, sorry, I take on that feedback, and I guess my response would be, if council wants to have a say in the design of the building, then they should be punting up some money for it. Because at the moment, it's all been paid for by external parties.
That is correct, but the consultation process to the public I'm talking about, not money that comes out of council coffers.
Right, okay, point noted. Councillor Hume. Briefly.
Very briefly, while you're on that topic, well, I've seen a plan a year ago where it also included alterations to the existing building, reception changes. Who's going to pay for the changes to the existing building?
Through the chair, I've just had the word project yelled at me. So my understanding is it's a project cost.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through Mayor. Furthermore to what Councillor Kinnermont said, whilst I hear project, that's great. I guess and I've raised this at our previous meeting, that will this lease impact on the site that is currently there and how it operates?
Through the chair, I mean, it may impact on how the the Golden Bay Museum currently operates. One of the reasons for co-locating it next to it is there's an opportunity for some kind of combined operating model to save costs. So it very well may, but that needs to be worked through.
So my further question to that is, will the costs that are incurred if we have to make mods to the museum at Golden Bay, will that go to the project cost as well?
That's exactly the question Councillor Kinnermont just asked, and that was the answer. Yes, it will. So there is currently no funding requested from and or provided by the council. Now, as I said in answer to Councillor Green's questions, I can't foretell the future, but that is a decision of the council, and I think it's been abundantly clear through both the submissions, the council's decisions, the conversation to date, is that the council has no intention of providing funding into this. Our role is to facilitate the opportunity for the Waka itself to remain in Golden Bay, to enable a party yet to be finally determined to potentially have a lease and construct a facility that will inevitably interact and intersect with the current Golden Bay Museum, who from my recollection, are not opposed to said outcome, and see actually the collective of both activities being a bonus. Like many shared facilities where they co-locate and potentially utilise the same space. And in this case, we're not being asked to fund any of it, which is an added bonus. So yeah, Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you. Very quick one. One thing that was quite clear from the community consultation was a concern about the loss of green space and established trees. I've voiced that myself when we first heard about this project. So my question is, can we trust that the resource consent process will deal with that concern, and that there will be a degree of mitigation potentially through increased greenery and street trees in the public realm in the street?
Through the chair, I mean, that kind of decision is for our regulatory teams to deal with rather than council itself. They will be dealing with the effects of this potential consent.
And for clarity, they would not be able to impose a condition that bound a third party, i.e. the council in the public realm, to provide something that would be a decision that would have to be taken as part of the consent with the consent applicant. The applicant may offer conditions, but the council can't issue a consent that relies on a third party's approval and or commitment and or funding.
Is there a way we can facilitate this discussion?
There is a conversation that could be had with the community, no doubt, as the community board and the proponents of the facility are discussing the relocation of the memorial and various other artefacts and the impact on green space and trees. Yes, there is a way that that conversation can be facilitated.
Just one point through the, Mr. Mayor, the trees that are going to be removed, we're hoping to mill them up and use some of that timber in other projects, maybe around this project, or maybe in other parts of the Takaka's Main Street, depending on what they are, but nothing's going to get wasted either.
And trees are, as we know, in other locations, always quite an emotive issue. They can be from time to time. It has come to my attention. Okay. Is there anything further before I come across to the mover, should they wish to have a right of reply? That is you, Councillor Butler.
No, I don't think I've got anything further to say. Just other than I think that the Golden Bay Community Board has a bit of a mandate to look after its parks and streets and stuff like that. So I think that mitigating the loss of the memorials in the Pioneer Park will be our first concern for the Community Board.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Butler. I'll look to put the resolution. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The resolution is carried. Thank you. Next up, we are remaining in Golden Bay with the decision report in relation to 29 Cornwall Place, Tarter Beach. Welcome, John. Welcome, Anna. Who is...
So I'll quickly introduce, and then if there's any questions. So just for clarity, particularly for new elected members, so we went through a public consultation exercise around 29 Cornwall Place. Hugely engaged community. You'll see the numbers of submissions. That was a hearings panel was formed. Fortunately, the chair is in Hamner today, but I know Councillor Hume and Councillor Kinnamonth are here. That went through the standard process of hearings and deliberations, and the paper in front of you is your decision paper, following on from the recommendation from the hearings panel.
Okay, thank you. The resolution is reasonably self-explanatory, I believe. It is open for conversations and or discussions. Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'm happy to move it. Being part of the Hearings Commission and listen intently to the community decision requests, I think this is a very good outcome for not only the adjoining owner but iwi and also the community.
Thank you, Councillor Kinnermont. Seconded, Councillor Hume. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Hume?
Following up on Mike's, it's been a huge submission case for this, and I think it's that option B is the only option, and I think it's a sensible option that carries the weight of the whole community, all the public, and appeases everybody. So option B.
Thank you, Councillor Hume. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Neubauer and then Councillor Fernahoe.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to say this without putting my foot in it, but I'll try.
It's always nice to pause a bit.
Look, there has been a huge return in that consultation, a huge interest in this. I personally, I learned a lot from what has come back from this consultation. I struggle a little bit with the commercial aspects of what we consulted on, because commercial decisions are obviously, by the nature of it, confidential. So we can't really consult on those. We are talking about the commercial framework for one business as part of this decision. I know there are a lot of other aspects to this decision, but one that is in there and that in my view hasn't really been explored in any great detail is how should we as the council interact with one business and its commercial interests. And as much as I understand that the owners of this business are nice people and we should keep that business, I think there are commercial considerations and a question about fairness throughout our district about how we treat one business compared to other businesses. And to me, the question that isn't resolved through the report, because I haven't got any figures in front of me, is what are the commercial implications? What are the figures? And I wonder whether we do actually need to have a confidential session on this to actually explore that in a little bit more detail. To me, it makes a big difference. If we are talking about freehold title that has a significant value, we hold that title. That means there is a cost attached to holding that amount of value, and that is the interest that we're paying at the moment on our loan that we could offset by selling that property. And I'm not suggesting that we should, but that is a consideration that we need to look at. So effectively, if the lease that we are charging a business is covering the interest costs that we incur in holding this title, that is fine. That's a commercially sensible thing to do. If the land is deemed a public reserve, and I more and more from reading the consultation get to the understanding that the public would see that piece of land more as a public reserve than as a freehold title, then again, how do we actually deal with the lease that we're charging on it? In my view, that should be guided by the community occupancy policy. Is that the case? I want to understand whether that is fairly treated across the district rather than a bespoke situation for one business. And Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't mind going into a confidential session so we can actually talk about that in detail, because it makes a difference to how I see either of these options, and I'm not suggesting that we should go for option A. It may be option B, but again, I have no clarity on what it actually means selling a part of this land to the business. I have no figures. I don't know, are we actually getting a fair value from this transaction? Is it going to be the proportion of the overall capital value of that piece of land that we would be recovering as the council? Or are we talking about a minute number? That would change my decision on which option to go for.
Do you want to just clarify the process? So specifically, before I decide over the going into committee bit, the process for the actual sale and how arriving at the value, etc., how is that going to be
So we
arrived at post this resolution should it pass?
We as usual, we'd have an independent valuation. Yep.
And is there any further council process in relation to the decision around that post this resolution, or in effect, is this resolution the end of the council's involvement in that conversation?
That's correct. It is the end.
Right. So bear with me. I'll see what other councillors have to say before I decide on the next course of action. I would highlight, however, that we have had a hearing panel. They are making a recommendation. They are the people who have heard all of the submissions, and while providing some further information may be appropriate and help with your vote on this, it's important to realise that in many ways we are the final step in a long process, and the recommendation that has been made are the only people who have taken account of all of the submissions, hearing, etc., which is what their resolution is based on. Councillor McNamara?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious, what's the proposed destination of the money? Because if it's going out of the district, like the rest of our asset sales, I can't support it.
So do you want to just clarify?
It goes into a fund that we invest outside of the region.
My understanding is the resilience fund. So where is the ultimate destination of the revenue, whatever it is?
You can direct that. We've not been clear on that. You can direct that.
Has it been moved?
It has been moved and seconded. Moved Councillor Kinnemont, seconded Councillor Hugh.
Then I would like to put an amendment in there that dictates the destination of that fund, the money, and it's not into the resolution fund.
So do you want? What's that? The resilience fund. So, the resolution is the.
Yeah.
So at the moment it is not specified. So rather than specify where it would go, you just want to specify where it wouldn't go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which way?
That would be an amendment to the resolution, which you're entitled to.
Speaker, please, can't hear.
Sorry, that would be an amendment to the resolution, which Councillor McNamara is entitled to move.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Greening.
And be a further decision of council, but as long as it's not going directly, this is our last chance to have a say, and it goes into the fund from here, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I think it's a useful clarification. Where it actually goes as a subsequent conversation is pointed out, but it's been moved and seconded as an amendment. Is there any significant debate on the amendment before we go any further? Just on the amendment. I've got you down to speak to the resolution. Councillor Ellis and then Councillor Fernahoe.
I'm just wondering if it would be agreeable to change that, that a decision would go to the council as part of a discussion further down the track, not just eliminating where it may go.
I would have a resolution or an amendment, so over to the mover and seconder as to the exact wording.
By default, I mean, it will come back to council, but my position is if it's destined for that fund, I can't support any asset sales that are going there.
Councillor Fernahoe.
Thank you through the chair. I see that kind of in line with the conversation we just had in the previous discussion around not being able to bind decisions for future. So I suppose I would foreshadow, shall that amendment fail, that I would put an amendment in line with Councillor Ellis saying that a resolution will come to council regarding the funds.
So regarding the use of the funds
Yes.
from the sale
Without,
of blah, 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 blah.
yes.
Okay, I mean, the outcome is slightly different insofar as the council collectively could decide to utilise it for the resilience fund, as opposed to in this case, well, of course they could still, because they would just have to rescind the current resolution as part of it, which obviously the majority of them could do. I'll look to put the amendment unless there's any other speakers to the amendment, just for clarity. All in favour of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Against? Show of hands. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, including Councillor Greening. Against? 1, 2, 3, 6. So, shadowed amendment. Councillor Ellis. Oh, Councillor Ferniho and Councillor Ellis.
Thank you through the mayor. It looks like governance is on it. It's that the decision is brought back to council with all information so that we can choose where to allocate the funds.
Yep. Okay. All right. I'll look in any conversation. Councillor McNamara.
Yeah, I mean, given the numbers around the table and the likelihood that it may not go my way, I obviously won't be able to support either of the resolutions if this is passed or when it's passed. But I can't support investing outside of our region, and B, the fact that this fund offsets net debt. It's a cash money, so when we do our net debt accounting, reduces the net debt. So we now have this headroom that we can spend. So effectively, all the money that goes into this fund, we are spending. I cannot support that.
Okay, let's not enter into a debate about the result. But no, I understand your point. Thank you. So I'll now put the further amendment. All in favour, please say aye. Aye.
Chair, I've had my hand up for ages.
Yes, Councillor Greening. I don't think it's going to change the outcome of the vote, but
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just wanted to get clarity around Councillor McNamara's motion, which was
lost.
But my question was, if it had succeeded, where would the funds default to? And then under this one, where do the funds default to? Like,
well, they default to.
Held?
So if we receive funds, they just go into that. I guess their council's overall funds, and the council will determine against which activity they will be applied. They could come off debt, they could go in the resilience fund, they could be used for a particular purpose. That is the point of the current resolution. Amendment, sorry.
So the outcome is virtually identical with the different words.
Yes,
except
it is.
Under this one, you do have the opportunity to put the funds back into the resilience fund.
Correct.
Right, but at the moment, it's not defaulting to the resilience fund.
It is not defaulting anywhere, no.
That's right. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. So I think that resolution was carried. So that is now the substantive resolution. If we go into committee, can you provide us with the information on the estimated value of the sale? Very succinctly, very briefly, not really for a debate or conversation, or can you not?
Not with any accuracy, no.
Right, and I take it. It's not something that the hearings panel considered. So they didn't say if it's worth X amount of money, we're going with option B, or if it's worth Y amount of money, we're going with option A. You made the decision based on the submissions that you heard, the rationale that was provided, agnostic of whether it was worth $1 million or $1. Okay. I think on that basis, it's not going to add anything. We're not going to get anything that we can hang our hat on in relation to the value. It is not one of the key considerations that the hearing panel took into account when they assessed the submissions and based their recommendation on. So on that basis, I don't see a need to go into committee to arrive at a figure that we, and I acknowledge that may impact on your vote. Yes.
Can I respond to that? Can I make the suggestion that we leave it on the table, get that information, and then make an informed decision? I understand that the consultation didn't take it into account, but that doesn't mean that it's not an important issue that we need to consider.
I'm just double checking the process because, process is important. I dotting and T crossing. Yep, no, the amendment was moved and put and passed. He did interrupt it, but it had already got the ayes. Oh, sorry. my apologies. I can come back and redo the nays if you wish. Only with the agreement of the mover and seconder can it be left to lie on the table. And I'm assuming the mover and the seconder are happy to proceed with the resolution.
I am. I'd also like to speak to it too.
Yes, well, I will.
When it's available.
Yeah, all good. So that's the answer to that question. So the only way to leave the motion to lie on the table is with the agreement of the mover and seconder, and the mover and seconder wish to proceed with the resolution. So therefore, it can't be left to lie on the table. Okay. Yep. I've got a list of speakers. So Councillor Ellis, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I've got a comment and a question. I suppose there's another one of those instances where we're not quite conducting ourselves like a business, because in most businesses you put something out on the open market and go for the highest bidder. And I suppose I have to take into account that this is what the community has decided they want. So I can support that. But what I am interested in is we get a valuation. What happens if the potential buyer of that land doesn't think that that's what the valuation should be and they're not willing to pay it? So, because I would imagine that as council we wouldn't want to sell it at that point. So what is the process? Should there not be agreement made within that envelope?
Resolution 6 discusses that. So note that if any reason there are concerns with the sale pathway, or if the required public access, cultural or environmental safeguards cannot be secured, a further report is to be brought to council before any disposal occurs.
Apologies, thank you, Anna.
That's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Woods and then Councillor Fernahoe.
Councillor Ellis exactly asked my question. Thank you, Joe.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Fernahoe.
Thank you. Through the mayor, has Golden Bay Kayaks given any indication, maybe the hearing panel would know, of if it was the lease option, would that negatively be impacting their business? Thank you. I'm getting some nods. I want to nod to the hearing panel. Thank you for what you did. I mean, obviously we had 656 submissions on this. I have to admit I had a little bit of a smile on my face when I saw that only 2% would agree to the full sale, which is an option that some people around this table were very supportive of. And I think this is a really good example of how this is not a business and how we can see money and immediate money always being the lowest hanging fruit to pick. But what our communities actually want is something different. And it is our job as a council to try to balance both of those. To me, option B seems like it is kind of the best of both worlds for everybody, where maybe not everybody will be completely happy, but little bits of this are going to hit with different people in the public. We're going to preserve our access. We're going to preserve our environment, our cultural values. I think that option B is definitely the best. So thanks for all the work that you did on the hearing panel on this.
Thank you, Councillor Fernahoe. Councillor Greening.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around why there is urgency around this, given the question that has been posed was not considered by the hearings panel.
We have a recommendation from the hearing panel. This is the process we laid out to go through when we appointed the hearings panel. As has been pointed out, there were 600 and something submissions. They've been heard. The recommendation has been made. As has been noted, there is a clause in the resolution that should a number of things not eventuate the way they are anticipated and or intended, and one of those may be a disagreement over the value of the land to be sold, then there is a pathway back to council for a further decision. So I don't see it being. I don't see an issue of it being overly urgent. We have followed a very robust process. We have received a lot of submissions. We have appointed a hearing panel who have done a great job of going through what was, quite a challenging process with a lot of varying views, and they've made a recommendation that we're considering today. So I don't see it as a rushed conversation, Councillor Greening.
Yeah, and that's why I'm wondering why it couldn't be left to lie on the table until staff can provide an answer to the question.
I've provided the answer to that question. The mover and seconder would have to agree to it to be left lie on the table, and given that they have been involved in the process and are part of making the recommendation, I understand why they would like it decided today.
Right, but there is no urgency. Just good to clarify. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Butler and then Councillor Neubauer.
Yeah, thanks through you, Chair. I just, from the point of view of the commercial return on this, the enabling the continuation of that business brings a commercial return for tourism in Golden Bay. So I would it would be really good if we could see the commercial side of it, see the big picture of it, rather than just looking at how much money are we going to get for selling that tiny little sliver of land, and what are we going to do with that? And if we decide not to go down that track, then the commercial losses are quite great because of the loss of a business which is integral to our tourism in the Bay and to the region, actually. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to you, Councillor Hume and Councillor Kinnemont. There's the mover and seconder before we put the resolution. Is there something more you need to
one
add?
last ditch effort to convince the mover and the seconder that we should leave this lie on the table. I completely understand the significance of allowing the continuation of the business. That is possible, I understand, through option B and option C. To me, it makes a big difference whether it's an option where we as the council receive a peppercorn lease going forward, as opposed to a commercially feasible and sensible lease going forward. To me, it makes a big difference whether we receive $1 million for a part of that property or whether we receive bugger all. And I want to put those options into context so I can understand whether I should vote for option B or option C. At the moment, I don't have the information, and I'm not entirely sure how this council can make a decision on this.
Thank you, Councillor Neubauer. I suspect that hasn't changed the mover and seconder's mind. So we will proceed with the discussion. I'll come to Deputy Mayor Maru, then Councillor Hume, and then Councillor Kinnemont. I'll take that as both your right of reply as well, and then I'll look to put the resolution.
Thank you. Through the chair, I actually do hear the statement that you're making in terms of what is a fair return for the ratepayers as a whole of the district from relinquishing of land. I absolutely get that statement, and it has some alignments in terms of the earlier discussion we have about integrating services into a Motueka library. The bit, I guess, the difference here is This has been to a hearings panel and had submissions who have assessed in terms of, and I know not price, but assessed in terms, what is the community's desire in terms of the future use of this land? And it's been clear through that report. So for that reason, I will support the resolution. But I actually don't disagree with some of Councillor Neubauer's fundamental parts, is that we will always, because most of us have a very sound community ear in the community, if we are going to relinquish assets and constantly have no clear financial framework while we're doing that, then we will never trade out of a better world. So I don't want to dismiss your views, but in terms of this process, I'm absolutely confident that the hearing panel has reached what the community want in Golden Bay. It may not be the outcome for the wider region in this case, in terms of the realisation of that price, but we don't know that, and that's to your point. But I'm happy in terms of the process of evaluation to take place. If that breaks down in terms of our valuation and the expectations of the sellers, then we will have another conversation. But on that basis, I'm happy to support.
Okay, I would note from this conversation and the feedback that I had when I asked council staff is that there will be a market valuation. It will be done as exactly as that. And if at whatever point in the process there is not agreement over that between the council as the seller and the potential purchaser, that is likely to come back to the council for a decision as to what they wish to do at that point. So to me, that satisfies the issue around value until such time as it doesn't, obviously. With that, I will come to Councillor Hume.
Just to follow up on that submission, it does bring a lot of trust back into council again, option B, with the submission process. I mean, we've been talking about consultation and submission process not working. In this case, it really has. So it does show that the community has got a little bit of trust back in council again if it goes option C. Oh, sorry, B. Listening to you too much, Timo.
Right, thank you, Councillor Hume. Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'll try and be as quick as I can. Long, convoluted process. This is a process that we have been following as a council for decades. When we go to sell any land, it is at market value. It is when we're going through the hearings, we had the Golden Bay Kayak people there as well, who are very supportive of the concept of buying a slither of land next door. We're not talking a lot of land, and we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if there's any issues, it is more about the process of it. The only thing that came up from the hearing panel and the submissions was mainly from Mr. Graham, who complained about the lack of notice. Iwi have said all along Tata Beach there is significant to them. The parcel of land that's left is got an open drain through it. It's got a little walkway through it, and this will allow the continuation of public access to the beach, where if we'd sold it, they would have cut off public access to Tata Beach, one of the accesses. So that was the other thing we considered. Can I suggest that we've been there, done that, we're following due process. This is something that should be, we're helping the community out. Oh, that's right. Even the local policeman has said, these people help out our community because when there's issues out on the water or something like that, they go and assist them. It really is a community aspect there. So can I suggest that if you're thinking that we're doing the wrong thing after being through the hearings panel, no, we're doing the right thing for the community and Tasman District Council as a whole.
Thank you, Councillor Kinnemont, and I'll take that as your right of reply. I will look to put the resolution that has been moved and seconded with the amended item 7, so that's the amended resolution. No more speakies.
Well, I would like it noted that I'm abstaining because I haven't got the information.
So when we come to vote, you can certainly note your abstention. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
Against.
And one abstention. So, Councillor Greening, I'll just double check.
I'm quite happy for it to go through if it's market value.
Okay, thank you. That is the basis on which we have passed the resolution on the advice of staff. So the resolution is carried. Sorry. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the approval retrospectively of the submission in relation to Hira Anuku, so the Nelson Tents Bill. Leith and Anna, I'll hand over to you.
Kia ora koutou. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's retrospective approval of the Te Hiri Anuku Nelson Tents Bill. As you are all aware, government timelines, in relation to this bill were very tight. The bill had its first reading on the 25th of June. Submissions opened on the 29th of June, and then after an extension, they closed on the 6th of July. So given these tight timeframes, staff provided a draft to elected members and were able to incorporate the feedback that we received. The bill has now been referred back for its second reading and has gone through Committee of the House, with its third and final reading being on the 18th of August, and I understand that our Mayor is going to attend that event on Council's behalf. Council's submission was apparently quite well received by both the committee and the Te Hiri Anuku Trust, and a number of important changes were made in the bill in light of Council's submission. Those most notably include clarifying that Council maintains ownership of Three Waters infrastructure on land owned by Te Hiri Anuku Trust, making our suggested changes to the planning provisions, and confirming Council's regulatory role isn't affected by the bill. I'm open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Leith. It's open for questions and or moving and seconding of the resolution. Councillor Neubauer, then Councillor Kinnemont.
Happy to move it. Actually, just wanted to express my appreciation. The comments that I made in the process have all been taken on board and implemented really well. So, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, through Chair. Happy to second. And thanks for the good job that you guys did. We really appreciate it.
Councillor Kinnemont, then Councillor Woods.
Thank you, through the me. Great day, isn't it? You heard back from the trust, and that they have accepted the majority of the council's requests. Is that what you said?
So we've seen the final bill coming out of the Finance and Expenditure Committee, which does incorporate much of the stuff that council has asked for in its submission.
Is that public yet?
Through the chair, yes. Both the Select Committee report and the updated bill are on the website.
Thank you, because I made a private submission myself and I wasn't aware that it happened.
Yeah, no, so it has definitely happened because it's the third reading and one assumes our final passage of the legislation is, as Leith said, on Tuesday. You might want to double check, yeah. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yeah, I am in the same boat as Mike, Councillor Kinnemont. I am not aware of those amendments. So is this opportunity where you could touch base on some of those amendments for some of us that aren't up to date, particularly the Three Waters infrastructure?
Through the chair, look, I'm happy to do that now, but I'm also happy after this meeting if you want me to talk through some of the major changes. As I've said, the big one being a really clear clarification that council continues to own all Three Water infrastructure on Te Hiri Anuku land, which was a bit of a question and kind of the focus of our submission.
Yeah, it's probably useful even to circulate what was previously in, like the wording, and the amended wording based on our submission, because it does provide absolute certainty as to that, where it was somewhat ambiguous previously. Okay, thank you. Councillor Greening.
Thanks, Chair. I think it would be useful if maybe you could circulate a brief memo on what Councillor Woods was alluding to in terms of getting some clarity around what landed. And I'm also interested to know what didn't land in our submissions. So if you're able to do that, that would be great. Don't have to do it in this meeting, can be done afterwards, just a brief emailed memo. Just want to get clarity, and I imagine some people may want to get clarity around clause 15 and 16 of our submission, page 170 in the agenda. What is this submission trying to do? Because the way I read it is effectively it seeks to roll over the management plan across privately owned land until it is then amended.
Through the chair, so that point was, I think that the bill didn't realise we have ward-wide reserve management plans, and it just talked about a reserve management plan as if there was just one parcel of land being discussed. So we were just trying to clarify that there weren't going to be two plans that were inconsistent with each other underway. I'm not sure if that one actually got, it didn't get included in the bill though, but I'm sure we can, with that
so
relationship.
This wasn't included in the bill, sorry?
No, like we asked for it and it wasn't included. But we will have a relationship agreement with the trust where we can probably work through these types of things instead. So we're not concerned that it didn't get included.
So that would mean that the management plan across what is effectively private land would cease to take effect subject to negotiation and councils and the parties' agreement. Is that where we're left with?
Through the chair, it's something that we need to work through further with both the Crown and the Trust as to how it's actually going to work. What we were trying to do with 15 and 16 is provide absolute clarity. Given that we're operating in the grey, we'll work through that together.
Okay. So again, it would be useful to point out where things didn't land, so we've got clarity around that as well.
Yeah, so the undertaking is from Anna and Leith is that they will circulate that by way of a memo on the things that were accepted and hence changes to the legislation and those that weren't. Cool, thank you. Anything further? If not, has it been moved and seconded? Yep, cool. I will put the resolution. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, I think we will attempt to complete the rest of the agenda items prior to breaking for lunch. He says, optimistically. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm aiming to finish by 12:30, by the way. But rather than break for half an hour and then come back for a short period, we'll attempt to get through the next couple of items. I'll come across to Sue in relation to the final statement of intent for Waimea Water Limited.
I'm going to take the report as read. I've got Paul Egan online. He's unfortunately sick today, so he's working from home, but he's here to answer some questions on the statement of intent.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Paul, before I open it up for questions?
No, I'm sure the report's been taken as read and it's a routine report.
Okay, thank you. It's open for questions. And or moving and seconding. Councillor Kittermont?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? He won't. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Maru. Councillor Greening?
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors may be aware, because I circulated the email to them, I've had a response from WWL in relation to the risk register, which was my inquiry back in May, which Ms. Kelly acknowledged apparently was circulated to council. So it would be nice to get a copy of that. And I would like to propose an amendment to the SOI, which basically just inserts into the reporting framework the provision of the risk register as one of the documents back to council. Wording has, I think, been circulated prior to this meeting, so you probably have it at hand. Given there seemed to be no problem in my request in May and Miss Kelly's provision of the risk register does seem an opportunity to continue that practice through the SOI.
Sue,
and so there should
Paul,
be an
does
amendment
someone want to clarify this risk register position?
It is the statement of intent has already been published, so it's already been accepted by the council lords through a previous iteration. I think it was April we shared the draft. Excuse me, and the risk register is part of the reporting, but I wouldn't have expected it to be included in the statement of intent. I would have to seek some guidance on.
So, does someone want to? So, Paul or so, Councillor Greening said the council has received the risk register.
It was sent to Matt McGlinchey, apparently.
So,
Okay.
the position that I've taken out of that email trail is we are absolutely updated on risks, but the circulation of WWL's risk register, as in the entire thing, that is not something that they're suggesting is part of the reporting framework. Can someone clarify exactly what the situation is? Because there appears to be some confusion.
Through the chair, Margaret's the only here. Look, I have been going backwards and forwards around this. It's a very operational document, the risk register. It does get reported through the Audit and Risk Committee. Also, the Board of Directors, which we appoint, also oversee the risk register. We have our own separate risks with Waimea Water Limited, and you will see those through our strategic risks. So providing it through this kind of documentation isn't appropriate. I'm not sure when we told you we would supply it. You might have asked for it. I don't know whether we actually went back and said we would. I need to see what that resolution looked like, or that action looked like. But at the end of the day, it's up to the GM at Waimea Water Limited if he wants to share that with you. It should not be part of the statement of intent in terms of what we provide. It wouldn't be appropriate.
We have the opportunity in the statement of intent to ask for certain documents. We have asked for them. This is just another document that we should see. So I don't see this as a problem at all. And if they report on it in the annual plan, fantastic. But if they're covering their entire contents of the risk management report through their reporting, then this again should be no problem. It's not hard to just lift up and email it to us. It's a risk register.
Right, so I think like my position is ultimately that is it is for Waimea Water Limited's to manage their risks, to which they should inform us if any of those risks present a risk to us, which I'm confident they do and will do. As has already been pointed out, our own Audit and Risk Committee considers the risks of Waimea Water Limited and our shareholding in it alongside the other risks of council. I don't see... In fact, I actually think it's more of a risk to council to start being circulated a whole lot of documents from external entities, and whether that's Waimea Water Limited or Port Nelson or the airport company, because we start to get ourselves into this awkward position between who's actually managing the risk. The clarity in this case is that is the board of Waimea Water Limited's responsibility. We appoint a majority of the directors onto that board, and we expect them to manage the risk. I fear that starting to have a whole lot of documentation provided to council and councillors muddies that clarification. So my perspective is that it is not something the council should request, because then the question is, what do we do with it?
So, well, you ask questions of it, but and you make sure that things that are spoken to in the annual report are actually in the risk register, and things that maybe aren't, but in the risk register you might want to ask a question about. But it doesn't affect the management of their risk. It's just obtaining a copy of their risk register, which records all their risks. So I don't see this as being an issue. It's full transparency, and there have been concerns about not hearing stuff and hearing stuff very late, and obtaining the risk register just clarifies their acknowledgement that they want to be fully transparent and give us no surprises. It's not hard to do. They have to do it themselves. It's just a document. And I'm not asking them to rewrite it, because that would be more work, just provide a copy of the risk register. It's pretty straightforward. We have our own. It's no different from ours to theirs. So I just see this as another document that they can provide.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. So I have a resolution moved and seconded. I note your point and your request. Is there any further comment on the resolution that we have before us? Councillor Neubauer.
Can I just ask on that point for clarification? My understanding is that the statement of intent is asking for information around risk management and the policy around how risks are managed, but it doesn't at this stage give us any indications or indication of what the actual risks are and what the major risks are that this company is dealing with. Is that not something that shareholders should be having an interest in?
Yes, it is, and that's what they should report to us through their regular updates based on the expectations set, firstly through the letter of expectation and secondly through the SOI. So yes, we should expect that to come from the company to us via either their CEO, chair, or our appointed directors.
Right,
that is quite different from receiving the documentation. We don't receive it from IHL, the port company, we don't expect to see all of that internal documentation. We do expect a no surprises approach, a regular update on any issues or challenges that are manifesting themselves, particularly those that affect us directly, but also those that may affect the other shareholder more generally. So that is the way that, as shareholders, we interact with all of our entities, of which this is one.
And we seek
Councillor Greening.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have received that type of update in the past?
Yes, we receive regular updates from Waimea Water Limited, at least quarterly. Am I correct or not? So yes, we do receive, and if we request to have them, it is appropriate for them to come and present a regular update on where they're at, what the issues are, and as part of that, it's absolutely legitimate to say, are there any risks? That is their job to come and tell us, and they don't need to. They should proactively provide us any information on the no surprises basis if they're aware of risk, regardless of whether there's a quarterly update or any other thing. If there's an issue arrived today that was significant to us as shareholders, our absolute expectation is we should be made aware of it. That's the same with the port, the airport, IHL, or any other entity, actually.
Then let's start adding the risk register.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. Councillor McNamara.
Just understanding, so we're accepting their financial statement of intent. Does that mean we have accepted their budget? Is that this process, or?
Paul, do you want to clarify the relationship between the budget and the statement of intent?
Correct. Through the chair, they are providing their statement of intent, so it has their 1 year budget in there, plus indicative budgets out for the next several years. This is just a normal process with a council controlled organisation. So when they presented in April the draft statement of intent, that would have been talked through there, and any changes that have occurred between that and the final are immaterial.
So the answer is yes.
Yes. I've noticed that the directors are getting an eye-watering $1,000 pay raise in the next 5 years, over the next 5 years, between them, whereas staff budget has gone up 100,000 projected 5 years out. So I'm just wondering, for the running costs of the dam going forward seem to be escalating, whereas I thought the intention was, once you get over the hump of building it, that it required very few staff to run in. I'm wondering why there's such a jump.
Probably a question we should have asked in April, but I think, notwithstanding, if we approve the resolution, we can go back and ask the question. and you'd get an answer provided as to what that uplift involves. Is there anything further? But so I think we'll just note the question that was raised by Councillor McNamara in relation to the increase in staff over the 5-year indicative budgets. Councillor Neubauer.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a question on a whole paragraph or section that's been removed on the collaboration on meeting consent conditions. Can we get some clarity around what exactly has been removed and why? Have we got a history of meeting those conditions?
Paul?
Through the chair, that was a new performance target that they had drafted in. It was in contemplation of discussing the ways of working with the various parts of council. That has been worked through, but it did not make it in time to be a finalised performance target. So Group Manager of Environmental Services, Rob Smith, can provide more clarity on the arrangements there. But it is something where they do have existing communication channels with council, and they were just wanting to clarify that a bit further, in which they have done.
Do you want to add anything, Rob?
Through the chair, reluctantly. Yeah, so that was essentially just to clarify the process, in which is easier for staff and the company to talk to each other. What we've done behind the scenes is we've appointed one person to talk to the dam directly, so all of these issues that tend to come up publicly can be dealt with. So as far as the nature of the statement of intent goes, it's not a significant change.
And for clarification, one of the challenges of wording a condition like collaborate, we are a regulator. So we have a responsibility to regulate and enforce, in the worst case scenario, conditions of consent. The idea of building, and so I think one of the concerns was the wording of collaboration may indicate that actually, rather than just a channel of communication, as Rob has outlined, having a single point of contact to consider any concerns or issues is appropriate, collaborating on the delivery of that leaves it open to misinterpretation. So I think that's the reason it's come out of the statement of intent, but behind the scenes, the idea of having a single point of contact to make it an efficient process has been worked through.
This is interesting. So my understanding is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there have been issues meeting the consent conditions in the past. So removing the KPI from the statement of intent doesn't actually give us any more clarity on how this is managed going forward. So wouldn't we be able to word a condition, a KPI like this, in a way that doesn't have the word collaborate in it?
Rob?
Just through the chair, exactly what the chair has just said. So collaborate is a very loose word. There is no action coming out of collaborate. It means we can agree to do or not do. We want certainty. They have conditions of their consent. They have to comply with the conditions of consent. If the community or anybody wants to do something in addition to that, then that's a discussion which can be done through staff directly. So by adding the word collaborate in there, it's a loose term, and it doesn't change the requirement to comply with a consent condition.
Which is a requirement. And yes, they have had some challenges meeting one or two of those conditions, which they have raised with us in those updates. And there's been questions from councillors about, are you confident going forward that you will be able to meet them in due course, etc., etc. The rationale as to why perhaps they haven't met some of them. So I think it's an inbuilt expectation through that they meet the conditions of their consent and all other legal obligations, of which RMA legal conditions are one. The particular clause about collaboration was, it's obviously in our interest to ensure they do meet those conditions. But we don't necessarily collaborate with consent holders to ensure that happens. We have a regulatory role, and we should do that as efficiently and effectively as possible. But we also have to draw the line between us as a shareholder and the regulatory department that we also have responsibility for. So that is why the wording has been taken out, although the process has been worked through.
100%, but that was not my question. My question was whether we can find a wording that doesn't include the word collaborate and is a bit clearer in that regard, whilst providing public scrutiny on the meeting of consent conditions.
I can take that back, but what the I think it is item 11, if I can remember in the report, there is a comment in there that we will be actively working with Waimea Water Limited over this next year to have something more with more clarity for the next statement of intent. So we have an opportunity. This is in for many, many, many years, so we've got a really good opportunity to get it right. So we'll welcome your feedback during that process.
While I can't find it immediately because it's not right in front of me, I'm assuming somewhere in their statement of intent, which is usually the case for all the entities, is in terms of meeting their statutory obligations, etc., etc. So it is an underlying and, I should hope, specific requirement that they meet the conditions of their consents and their other legal obligations. So I think that's inbuilt into the statement of intent. I'd like to be able to find it immediately so I can satisfy you that it's in there, but that is clearly an obligation and or commitment. So suggested new wording. Right, anything further? Councillor Greening.
I'm just, has my amendment been put?
I didn't know that you'd moved an amendment.
Yeah, that was my first wording when I first opened up my
Oh,
discussion.
I thought it was just
moving an amendment which has been widely circulated.
Generating your opinion.
Make a change to the BSOI.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, for clarification, Councillor Greening has moved an amendment. Is there a seconder? Seconded Councillor McNamara. So, also for clarity, should this resolution pass, the SOI cannot be approved as amended. We would have to then go back to the board of.
No, he can't move that amendment.
Ah, righto. All right. Okay, so now I understand the note. So we can't amend the SOI without the input of the board of the council-controlled organisation that we are considering amending it for. So an amendment, because this is the final statement of intent and not the interim and or draft, then we are unable to amend it without going back to
That's right. So we go back. Yeah.
So you would have to leave that, which would require the mover and seconder, as we've learnt today, to agree.
To leave it lie on the table. That's right.
With the agreement of the mover and seconder. Like my strong view is this is. I personally don't support it anyway, so I guess that clouds my view. But I do think that we should proceed with the resolution, but that is over to the mover and seconder as to whether they wish to leave it lie on the table while we reconsult with the board of Waimea Water Limited.
Or someone that hasn't spoken in debate can move
So,
it to lie on the table. Someone that hasn't spoken in debate.
Right. So coming back to the previous advice you gave me. Okay, righto. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm learning so much about standing orders I never needed to know before. So if someone who hasn't spoken in debate.
Oh. You asked if someone's not spoken, and I have not spoken, so I'm
Right.
to leave it on the table.
Moved Councillor Walker.
And for clarity, a question isn't speaking in debate, yes? Raising a question is not speaking in debate?
If we're in debate, yes.
So again, this is and for way of again clarification, I am happy to go down the really formal way of debating issues, and in order to run standing orders the way that's Kelsey is required to advise me, we will have to completely change the way we do debate and questions. Now, I'm happy with that. I've always kind of liked the informality and people speaking multiple times and having the opportunity to have a bit of a conversation. But what it throws into the mix is it then makes these decisions very difficult because there actually isn't clarity over whether we're in debate or asking questions. And so that's on me as chair. And if we are going to face these challenges more regularly, then I will have to significantly formalise the debate, one speaking slot, etc., etc. So I'm happy to do that. It's not my preference, but that's, I guess, where we're potentially being led. Councillor McNamara, it's a question.
Yes. I'll just give a bit of clarity. So, could what Councillor Greening's requesting not just be in addition to the motion rather than included in the statement of intent? I can't remember what he was.
Seeking an
I
amendment.
can't remember how it's worded.
So I get yes. Yes, yes, that is possible. So we could pass the resolution around the statement of intent, which would not include a requirement to provide the risk register. We could then, someone could move a subsequent resolution, completely disconnected to the statement of intent, to ask the staff to ask Waimea Water Limited, and they could say, yes, we're happy to, or they could say, no, we are not. That is one way through that is one way through the conundrum.
Can I provide some clarification? In the email from Ms. Kelly, she was going to approach the directors.
No, I think it's actually he. So just so we start on the right footing, it's actually he, not she.
Apologies. Yes. My misuse. Is it they, he, or whatever? Yeah, so they're going to take it back and have a discussion as well. So I think we should leave it on the table, let them have the discussion. I can't see it being a problem, to be perfectly frank. It's a very straightforward document that they can easily add. But so in that regard, I can't see why it can't lay on the table.
Right, so just noting, we're receiving the final statement of intent, not approving it as such. So the way this works is we send a letter of expectation, they provide us a draft statement of intent, we have the opportunity to change it, alter it, and then they take that, incorporate our suggestions, bring back the final statement of intent, which we either receive or not.
Yes.
Again, I think Councillor McNamara's suggestion is potentially a way forward where we can have our cake and eat it, so to speak, i.e. we can receive the statement of intent, allow them to continue on with their business, and pass a resolution requesting, should that be the council's majority view, the risk register. That way we can, to some degree, have our cake and eat it. So that is what I'm proposing to do. So we have a mover and seconder for receiving the statement of intent. You have moved it, and I will ask you for your right of reply, and then I will look to put it, and then we will subsequently look for someone to move a resolution, and then debate that particular resolution.
So I've moved an amendment. Where are we sitting with that? Because it's been seconded.
Yeah, but literally, I don't think we can. I don't think you can move it. We can't amend it.
No, I can move it, and then what happens is we can't submit the final. It has to go back to them. They then see what we've moved. They have a discussion whether they agree with it, and they send us back.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
We had this discussion ages ago with the risk register, and it hasn't appeared in the final SOI.
Correct, because we didn't pass a resolution to require it. I'm assuming.
We had a discussion where we invited them to add it.
So there are
and we didn't need to do that. We were, this is minuted. Blah,
thank
blah,
you,
blah, and then
thank you, Councillor Greening. I am trying to provide you the opportunity to debate what it is you wish to debate, at the same time as enabling us to approve the majority of the thing that most people seem happy with the rest of the content of the SOI, and.
That's not
and
the words. But
and anyway, the other thing is, I get really frustrated with you sitting there on the screen, not in the room, going around and around all these things endlessly. So I'm trying to provide a way forward. And my concern is by going through the amendment process, we're actually convoluting a discussion that could be quite simple. If we just move, if as a mover of the amendment, because I'm assuming otherwise I don't have an option. It's been moved and seconded.
Okay.
I have to
Well,
accept it.
can I suggest something else?
No,
Because it's
Mark, you can't.
okay.
I am just waiting to get advice from the governance staff.
Okay. I just thought there was two ways of skinning this cat. That wasn't.
Actually asking now for the statement of intent to keep changed.
What did he send through?
This is what he's just sent through, so it's not what he said originally.
So I'm just wondering, while we're hearing that,
Mark,
rather than
so
add
Mark,
it into the
Mark,
SOI, we just ask them. Yeah,
Mark. So we've got the wording that you've sent through to governance.
Yep.
It doesn't in any way seem to me that needs to be part of this. That you could move that as a entirely separate resolution, like in literally 30 seconds. As a separate resolution, it stands entirely on its own. It doesn't need to amend the current resolution or impact on the SOI.
So that's what I'm trying to say. There's two ways of doing this. You either amend the SOI,
exactly,
in which case it says amend blah 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 with the following words, which you've got highlighted,
which we can't do.
Or you just outside of the SOI request that they provide this every 6 months.
Exactly, which is precisely what
So
I
at the moment
suggested we should do.
Yeah, so at the moment you have worded it exactly in the letter, which is just a request for a 6 monthly delivery outside of the SOI.
Thank you, Mark. Lee.
As the seconder, I'm happy to withdraw my seconding on the basis that we go into the.
Excellent. Well, that does solve a part of our problem. Leith.
Through the chair, if I can provide some legal clarity. So, once a statement of expectations is provided to council, council can, by resolution, modify that statement of intent in a manner specified in the resolution. However, before that can happen, the shareholders must consult with the board as to the content of resolution. So amendment to the statement of intent via this is not lawful. However, the proposal to receive the statement of intent and then request that will provide an update every 6 months can happen.
Excellent. That is exactly the clarity I need.
But it's not the resolution up on screen.
No.
Delivered.
So 5 gets removed because it's now lapses for a lack of a seconder because Councillor McNamara has withdrawn it. We will put the resolution moved by Councillor Kinnermont and seconded by Deputy Mayor Maru, and then Councillor Greening may wish to move a subsequent resolution, which may be seconded by somebody, and we will then make a decision on that resolution. Is everyone happy with that? Right. I will put the resolution moved in relation to the statement of intent. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. The resolution is carried. Councillor Greening, would you now like to move the wording that we have in front of us as a separate resolution? Right. Is there a seconder for that separate resolution? Councillor McNamara. I'm not sure how much we wish to further debate this, seeing as we have been around and around several times, but if there is anyone who would like to provide their opinion or view, please feel free to do so.
Oh, why not?
Yeah, if you want nowhere else to be on.
Thanks. Like I'm not gonna stifle if the majority want this, but I want to come back to Mayor Tim's comment in terms of it is Will's responsibility to manage their risk register and to elevate those risks and those concerns to the shareholders, being Tasman City Council. Do we want to get involved in their day-to-day running? Do we want to dive that deep? I'm absolutely nervous about doing that. I don't think we should be, but I don't want to spend another 10 minutes on this.
Right. Councillor Neubauer.
Can I get some information from legal what the implications could be if we find information that is usually dealt with by the board of Waimea Water Limited?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, the question is, should we vote to receive the risk register, and should we then decide to start trying to manage that risk via, because I'm assuming that's the only real reason to get it is if you want to do something with it. What are the implications of the council as shareholder effectively diving into what may be considered an operational process?
Oh, through the chair, I'm not prepared to give advice off the cuff on that one. I'd have to come back to you.
My suggestion is it would be an unwise place to head, but again, as Councillor Deputy Mayor Maru highlighted, we'll cross that bridge should this resolution be passed.
Before we move into passing a resolution that we don't know what the effect of it would be, can I
We'd like to move your lies on the table.
On the table.
That's a classic. Well, I now learn that someone who hasn't spoken in the debate to date would be able to move a resolution for it to lie on the table. I'm not sure that's where we want to go, but that is certainly, I do love a good process. Hold that thought. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I just wanted some, I was doing my head in.
Join the club.
Can I get some clarification around, we can make this request. I mean, they provide information on their requests at other times in their reporting, so I'm not sure that we're actually achieving anything. What happens if they say no?
Also, probably advice we don't.
I mean, through the chair, they can. It's about our relationship with Will. This is a request from council.
Yep. Any further questions? See, it is very clear what the resolution requires. There is unclear what the consequences are of passing it and or them refusing it, but that's fine. I will look to put the resolution. All those
Does the mover get an opportunity to talk to the motion?
My apologies, Councillor Greener. You have your right of reply and your opportunity to speak all wrapped up into one.
Thank you. This is a simple document. It is not reaching down into the administration or management of the organisation. They create this document when they identify risk, just like we do in our risk management, identify the escalating risk, they weigh up the balances, and then they publish it in a little table that indicates what the risk is and what mitigation measures they're putting in place. This is not arduous, and it should be pretty straightforward. And from my discussions with WWL representatives, they're going to have a discussion with the directors about providing it. Ideally, it should be part of the SOI. Perhaps it will be in the future. I cannot see a problem in its provision. Yes, they may decline this request because now it's outside the SOI, but hopefully it gives an indication that we did want it in the SOI and somehow it slipped past and maybe there's an opportunity to provide it outside the SOI. And when we get to the next one, that they include it as one of the reporting documents they provide. It's not arduous. It's not a big document. We're not reaching into management. It's just a document that they use themselves to help manage their risks and report. I think people are making a far too big a deal out of it, to be perfectly frank. Either that or they don't understand the risk management or they don't understand the risk register itself.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to, but trying to wrap your right of reply and speaking into one, I omitted to give Councillor Walker opportunity, so I will give you another opportunity after this should you require it. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through Mayor. So I put an offer forward to say to leave it on the table. I'm very hesitant to vote on something that I don't know, A, whether we can deliver, or B, the unintended consequences that may arise from this resolution.
Is there a second? Because this is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it is a, whatever those motions are, procedural motion, that's the word I'm grappling for. It takes precedence. So moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Ellis, I think. So now we don't debate a motion to lie on the table, we just put it, is that correct? So we just put it. So there is now a motion to leave this lie on the table, subject to getting further advice. Don't debate procedural motions, therefore I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. This is the procedural resolution to leave it lie on the table to get further advice. Correct. I will try that again. We are debating the procedural motion to leave the resolution lie on the table, moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Ellis. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Against.
The
Isn't it a
resolution.
request? I
The
don't understand
resolution.
what
Thank you, Councillor Greening. The resolution is carried. Therefore, the item is left to lie on the table. I assume that we will receive some further advice in relation to the resolution and the request and the legal ramifications or otherwise to be reported back to, let's suggest, the next council meeting. Right.
In the interim, can the risk register that was provided to Matt be circulated, please?
No. So in the interim, nothing gets circulated anywhere until such time as we get the advice back. That was the rationale behind Councillor Walker's motion.
Okay. We'll wait till then.
Right. So next up, the local government funding agent's final statement of intent. I'm not sure anyone like to move that we receive their risk register. It's probably quite an interesting document, of which we are a shareholder, I would hasten to add. But would someone like to move the receipt of the final statement of intent from the local government funding agency?
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Butler, seconded Deputy Mayor Maru. Are there any questions? I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. I almost hesitate to go to the next item. But there is a mayoral update there for your perusal. A number of things have happened in the last little while, all of which are noted there. As usual, I'd like to thank those who have stepped into various roles in my absence, and appreciate that a number of you take up those roles at various things, noting the most recent, is it in this one, the banana thing, or was that coming in the next one?
That'll be the next one.
Oh, no, that was the other one. It was very interesting hosting people from the east coast of North Island who are contemplating the joys of becoming a unitary authority. I then subsequently actually appeared on a panel at a local government meeting the other day on the same topic around the RMA functions of a unitary authority. I would have to say I do believe there's a bit of optimism about how simple and easy it is to be a unitary, and that everything is going to become simpler for them when they move to this wonderful new structure. I have taken the opportunity, every opportunity, to point out it is not easier. And while it, from the outside looking in, going from 3 TAs and 1 regional council to 1 unitary may look really more efficient and simpler, as we all know, the challenge of weighing up the priorities between and the regulatory functions, and as much as that last conversation, our regulatory function around managing consents for an entity we're a 51% shareholder in, all of those issues actually make the decisions around the governance table in a unitary considerably more complicated, more challenging. It's certainly not a cheaper, in inverted commas, option. I personally believe it is a better thing, having an entity that looks across all of the different functions. But it is going to be fascinating to watch the next steps in the Head Start process and what gets approved to go further by the government and what may not. Because there is a real range of suggestions that have come out from some very large unitary authorities to some very small unitary authorities, and some other variations on a theme. So I think that's a bit of a case of watch this space. And I think it confirms the kind of non-position we've taken, which is to wait and see what happens through Head Start, see what gets approved for next steps, and then depending on the outcome of the election, what a subsequent government may decide to do through any backstop process. So it's an interesting space to watch. Other than that, I've got nothing further to add other than I move my report be received. Someone seconded. Councillor Ferniho. Anything further? Councillor Kinnemont.
I have a question.
Yep. I'm coming to you, Councillor Greening, after a couple of previous speakers. Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate what you've been doing on our behalf this last month. I'd also like to thank you and Councillor Ferniho for taking one for the team, dive into some cold water recently, and I just wonder, was there a minimum duration of time in the cold water mentioned?
Yeah. No, I did take the get in, get under, get out option, so I didn't really go for the long duration cold submersion. But yeah, look, it was a nice thing to be involved with in terms of fundraising for a good cause. And so anytime you can take the opportunity to utilise our thing to position to help an organisation like that, I think it's good to be involved with. So, Councillor McNamara?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if if there been any further discussion around our relationship in the Head Start process, given that Mr. Shane the Mouth Jones has been going around the country telling councils they won't be here come the new election, including Tasman.
So no, I mean ultimately I've made it abundantly clear every time I've spoken it is my view. Like when they ask me, and it's Nick Smith's view. So it's at the moment it is two mayors. Neither council has taken a position to support or not support some future outcome. What we've decided to do, I guess, by not deciding, is to put in an application to be part of Head Start on the basis that it was never intended to apply to existing unitaries by direction, although the option existed. And the subsequent discussions, we will wait and see what happens. So yes, there is a lot of rhetoric around what happens post-election. I suspect a fair amount of that is all to do with with elections, precisely. And I genuinely believe the best option for both Nelson and Tasman is to wait and see the outcome of that election. And if we're directed to enter into some new arrangement, then that'll be what we have to do. And at that point, the debate changes from whether you're a fan of it or not to how do you make achieve the best outcome based on what you're instructed to do. So I think there's a fair bit of water to go under this bridge yet. Obviously, there's an election, but even then, depending on the makeup of the government, I'm not sure there's unanimity between the various components of the current government over which of the Head Start proposals they may or may not wish to. There is a lot of lobbying going on. If you take two of the strongest lobby groups in the country, you've got the Taxpayers Union, who don't really support amalgamation at all, on the basis of it's very likely to not improve costs and potentially significantly reduce influence, and Federated Farmers, who have taken a very strong stance that while they do support some rationalisation and they do support unitary authorities, they don't support large urban populations being lumped in with large rural ones. So and it is just my view, I think there's a fair bit of water to go under this bridge before we get any final directions, either on Head Start or on backstop. Councillor Greening, then Councillor Neubauer.
Just wanting to follow up on when the Mayor will be looking to have a councillor-only session. You indicated there would be one, but there was no date provided.
Oh yeah, the highly transparent process of getting all the councillors together out of the public eye. Well, as you're requesting such a get together, then yes, I have indicated I am willing to, and I will look to do that certainly within the next month, Councillor Greening, to give councillors the opportunity outside the public scrutiny to discuss whatever issues you would like to discuss. That is based on your request, though, not on my suggestion, just for clarity.
I don't think it was just my request.
No, quite a few people have requested a out of the public eye get together of councillors only. So on that basis, I hasten to add Councillor Greening, not my preference, but yes, I will facilitate that opportunity.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Thank you for asking
but
it.
I just want to clarify that it's around not having staff in the room. That's why.
Oh yes, no, it doesn't involve staff either. No, it's a very, very exclusive meeting. It really doesn't involve any scrutiny from anybody at all, just councillors. So I note that both yours and a number of other people have requested it, and despite my misgivings about such a thing, I will facilitate one.
Thank you.
Councillor Neubauer and then Councillor Ellis.
Which isn't entirely unusual at board level. I've got a question about transparency as well. And that is, would this consultation around Head Start also have been a good opportunity to communicate our position on the potential backstop process and how we think about how our residents should be incorporated into such a process?
So as yet, there is no clarity around what our backstop process even looks like. So they've indicated there will be one, and they will determine what that looks like post-election. And absolutely, if at that point, again, I was asked the other day about should it be a referendum. My personal view is absolutely. Governance arrangements and the decisions around future makeup of councils and the number of elected members and how that is, my personal view is that absolutely should go through some form of public decision making. But however, at this point, we have no clarity over anything beyond Head Start. Even Head Start is not, I think I'm correct in saying, currently legislation. There's no legislation around Head Start. It is effectively the government saying we wish to see, should you want to, and they made it very clear it's entirely voluntary. So we don't even know what this legislation around the Head Start proposals looks like yet. But at the point that we do, and if there is a process laid out, absolutely we will have to consider what our position is, how the community is involved, how we engage them. But I suspect that the legislation will absolutely rule out a referendum, because I suspect the government probably don't want it to go to referendum, because historically, when amalgamation proposals have gone to the public, they have not been successful.
And therein lies the problem, and that's why I'm thinking, rather than waiting for legislation to come to us, would that have been an opportunity, or is there still an opportunity, if we as a council agree on the view that you've just voiced, which I believe most of us probably will, whether there is an opportunity to proactively communicate that to Wellington? Because, I mean, obviously they are already making noises around the backstop process, so is there already an opportunity for us to influence that and where it lands, just to make clear where we and our residents sit?
Look, I guess if the council directs, that would involve quite a lot. I mean, again, we've had this conversation about how much we're trying to do. We've got spatial planning to implement. We've got a whole lot of other things, an LTP to get through and deliver. To start a process, because you would need to, if you're going to, I'm assuming, you would need to have a role of involving the community's perspective to inform the council's position to the government. It's another whole layer of conversation. Again, my personal view is, firstly, there may be an election outcome that doesn't even involve a backstop process. That's a perfectly conceivable outcome, isn't it, at this point? That whoever the government is post November the 7th doesn't have either Head Start or backstop option. So I think it would be a lot of resources and time and community input, which may not necessarily be, and that's another outcome, but that's kind of secondary. So that's my view at this stage. I'll come back to you, Councillor Kinnemont. Councillor Fernyhough or Ellis? Fernyhough?
I just wanted to acknowledge that this will be Max's last full council meeting as he moves on to bigger and better things. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to thank him for all of the cool quotes he's written about us in the newspaper and wish you the best.
Thank you, Max.
Interesting, I did not know that. I guess that'll come to the next Cawthorne Trust conversation. But I reiterate the points that Councillor Fernyhough made. Thank you very much. Your attendance you're always attending. And I know it's a tricky job to try and report on councils and all of the various things that we do. But generally speaking, we've been really well served by the media. So, and you're a part of that. So thanks, Max. Appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you in your other role. All right. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question, not having requested this councillor time. will there be some indication of what discussion will be about, and ensuring that all councillors, if they choose to, are able to attend, given that everybody has such a complicated schedule and it's potentially an issue for everybody to attend sometimes. So will there be fair warning? Will there be some indication of what discussions are meant to be? It just feels a bit to me.
I will talk to Hayley and we will set it up as anything else, so with a calendar and assess people's availability or otherwise. I'm assuming everyone will come in person, but maybe not. And so, yes, it will be scheduled. There'll be time to ensure that hopefully everyone can be available. We'll try and coordinate it with another meeting where the majority of us are here in person, so that we can all attend in person to have that important conversation. Is there anything further? Councillor Kinnermont.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. I noticed you have had a meeting with the iwi representative, Ihaka Griffin. Could you give us an update on
it? Was literally
when are we going to see them?
So there is coming up on someone tell me, Renee, the date?
20th of August. You should have received a calendar invite.
You should have received a calendar invite for the
Mihi Whakatau.
Mihi Whakatau, welcoming them to the council.
It was before an SFP meeting, but I think it's been cancelled. But now you've got a workshop, so it's before a workshop.
Before a workshop. So the purpose was very much introductory kind of expectations. This is the role. Just a very general introductory conversation. Nothing more than that.
No, I'll just ask you what's happening.
Yeah. So that is the process. Anything else? If not, it's been moved and seconded that it be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. I will now close with karakia. Kia hiki te kōrero, kia wātea, kia mama te manawa o te tangata. Kia uki te ara mō tātou e ora nei, kia rongo, kia runga, kia tina, hui e, tae ki e. Enjoy